And we'll get the Discord up. And in the meantime, I will read some Aquinas. Because why not, right? Why the F not? Okay. So let's see what Aquinas has to say about demonology, given what we just finished. Demon. Oh, lol. Let me do this. Zero. Aquinas has nothing to say about demonology, apparently. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see what he has. Even the cause of evil, that's a good one. Whether there be one supreme evil, which is the cause of every evil. Oh, wait, you guys can't see this. Ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Objection 1, it would seem that there is one supreme evil, which is the cause of every evil, for contrary effects have contrary causes. But contrariety is found in things, according to... What is this? Is that supposed to be Ecclesiastes? Eccles 33:15. Good is sent against evil, and life against death. So also is the sinner against a just man. Therefore there are many contrary principles, one of good, the other of evil. Further, if one contrary is in nature, so is the other. But the supreme good is in nature, and is the cause of every good, as was shown above. Therefore also there's a supreme evil opposed to it as the cause of every evil. All right, there's a lot of objections here. On the contrary, the supreme good is the cause of every being, as was shown above. Therefore, there cannot be any principle opposed to it as the cause of evils. I answer that it appears from what precedes that there is no one first principle of evil, as there is one first principle of good. Because the first principle of good is essentially good, as was shown above, but nothing can be essentially bad. So this is going back to the original sort of conception of evil as the privation of good. That evil really only exists within good as something that, or really it's just a lack of good. Although evil always lessens good, that makes sense, yet it never wholly consumes it. And thus, while good ever remains, nothing can be wholly and perfectly bad. Okay. Therefore, Aristotle says that if the wholly evil could be, it would destroy itself. Because all good being destroyed, which it need be for something to be wholly evil, evil itself will be taken away since its subject is good. Okay, that makes sense. Evil only even makes sense in response to good. So there might be a there might be something that's very, 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 very evil, but it cannot be supremely evil in the way that the supreme good is supremely good. Okay, that's fine. So what does he have to say about this? Augustine says that God is not the author of evil because he is not the cause of tending to not being. But the evil which consists in the corruption of some things is reduced to God as the cause. Hey, yo, what's up, Infamous? You just missed it. We just finished playing. Faith. It was fun. I think I got the probably lamest ending. I went and watched the like true ending or whatever, which was cool. Was way cooler. But I was happy. So basically what happened was I defeated Gary. It was a quick battle. And then Father Garcia basically kidnapped me to take me because I'm such a coward to go fight more demons and then roll credits. But the real ending, you're like a hero, and Lisa's still alive, and you get to choose between Father Garcia and Lisa, and all this stuff. So it's a fun game, dude. Super fun game. At some point, I'll probably revisit that and get back into it. Now, I will drop the Discord link if anyone wants to jump in. I was just trying to find what Aquinas says about... Yeah, in the true ending, he does regain his faith. He goes like, I defeated the unspeakable, but only with the help of the Lord, right? And there was a confusing part in the ending that I got, which is like this like Holy Ghost type spirit comes, like this white ghost, and like transported me to the final battle, basically. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but yeah, in the ending I got, his faith was basically not restored at all. He was just like totally cowardly. He still like pleaded to God, but not in like a strong way, you know. But yeah, in the true ending, he was a badass, total badass. Faith totally restored, everything chill. What's up, brother?
Yeah.
How you doing, man? How you doing?
Good. I'm a bit disappointed I didn't get to see your reaction to the true ending.
I know. I might even pull it up again just to. Oh, does he get his golden? Well, maybe I watched the wrong ending.
He does get it. He does get his golden cross back when he jumps through the hole. Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Or maybe that just wasn't part of the. That's freaking awesome though. Yeah, part of the ending I had, he was crawling around. I couldn't tell if the cross was golden or still bronze, but it looked like it was still bronze.
Yeah, it's he crawls around when you get hit in that fight. It's the only part of the story where you don't die in a
Don't die
single
in
hit,
one shot.
showing
Yeah.
that he really has his faith back.
Oh, that's sweet. No, it was super fun, man. It's super fun. Let me see it. Let's look up the see if there's another ending or something.
Sure.
Which one would it be? So I watched the true final boss plus Doomslayer ending.
Oh yeah, the meme that he just becomes Doomslayer. Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah.
Because Garcia at the end is like, "Let's kill some fucking demon."
Right, and then they like clasp hands.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. Wait, not studio mode. Start virtual camera.
Did you get the threaten ending where you just like get in the fucking car?
Where he's dead in the yeah. Garcia, I'm like, no man, I don't really want to fight demons anymore. I'm kind of a coward. And Garcia's like, I'm not giving you a choice. And then he literally points the shotgun at you and says, get in the car.
It'll drag you into heaven.
What's this? Chapter 3
Get in the car, mijo.
Get in the car, mijo. I know, that's so funny. There's also a confusing part where Garcia didn't know. He like didn't know who he was like, nice to meet you. And I was like, what? Haven't we been?
Oh, so they have never met face to face.
Oh, just through like.
It's finally nice to meet you. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's nice to finally meet you, mijo. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Father Garcia's a freaking badass. I'm sure this is some kind of window ending. I don't know. It's chapter 3 secret cutscene.
Yeah, this is the one that happens when you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the one that happens when you don't get the true ending. Honestly, see that one right there, the 4 hour video by Wendigoon. I would
Yeah,
consider watching that in your free time to really like get the
it
greatest
gets
meaning. He's a
okay.
believer too. He's a Christian, so
I've
he
seen Wendigoon's Bible iceberg. It's pretty cool. He's good.
yeah he understands a lot more about the game than I do, and I watched his video on it. It's
Oh,
how it
that's
gave
sweet.
my
I'll
attention to
definitely
it.
have to watch this because there's so much
Very good.
stuff you could miss just by playing it through.
Yeah, he
Um,
deconstructs the whole thing, and his stuff on chapter 2 and 3 is really good.
oh, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, look, he already picked up. I'm just looking in the thumbnail. Like he picks up this sort of seven, not seven, but
The
70
70
times
times
seven.
seven,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, cool. Trying to
Yeah.
see. I don't want to get
When you got
copyright
possessed by the demon Malphus is great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's just wild.
But yeah, no, the
I
true
think
ending should be that one. Yeah.
this one here. Yeah, cool. Why do I get ads, dude? I need to get rid of ads.
Hmm. I saw the free will thing that you posted 2 days ago. I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
ah.
yeah. I'm sure I can already foresee what you disagreed with or how you disagreed with it. But we basically we had our conversation about that after I'd already posted that. But I don't think I would really.
I figured it was recorded. Yeah, I
Yeah, it was
figured.
recorded. It was actually the same day. I was wearing the same shirt. But
Oh yeah.
if you did you have anything specific from that video that jumped out to you like, oh, this is just fallacious. This is just horrible.
Well, I mean, it's really just like it just comes down to definition at this point. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty much what I figured. Like we're just gonna
so
fundamentally disagree that.
yeah, because you value the usage of the word more than you value if the word makes sense, and I don't care about the word making sense because it's based on a false premise.
Well, the way that I would put it is that the word making sense is the only thing that words even do. So why have words at all?
What about the word nonsensical?
Sure, sure, sure. Which only makes sense in terms of it describing something which doesn't make sense or whatever. But
Yeah, or
yeah,
words
so we
that
don't have to
only
get
exist
into
in
it.
context like the and stuff. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we don't have to get into all that again because that was a heated
yeah,
discussion.
we can touch on it a little bit before moving on to something else if you want, but we can watch this first.
Yeah, let's watch this. Let's watch this. You can see it, I'm guessing.
I can.
Cool.
Oh yeah, that moment where he's like, Gary does not love you.
Yeah, exactly.
What's cracking, peeps? It's Jax.
That's funny.
Oh no, he's explaining it. I don't think he's actually showing it.
Yeah, let's see if he gets to the good stuff. This is the final battle room. So I
Yeah,
didn't even
where
get
you
to
fight.
do this fight. Like
Oh my
for I
God,
don't know
the
why,
next
but
bit.
I guess I just
Right,
didn't trigger the
please,
response.
You didn't get all the seals. There's one seal every night.
Well, I can't see them.
Oh, there's one seal every night. Okay.
And you only broke one of them.
What?
Right. That makes sense.
Oh my God.
That makes sense.
Oh my Christ.
So yeah,
Yeah, so-
I did watch this fight. Okay, yeah.
What?
May God
I think
take
this might
cup
be
from-
like a weird. I think this is like a weird. Oh wait, no, that is Gary. That's
Yeah,
that's...
it's like Gary and like the other thing sort
No,
of
I'm not-
combine
I don't
to.
wanna die.
I love that if you get hit, you literally just pray, and like Gary's just sitting there like, what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah, yeah.
The whole boss. I'm
That's
You
You
wild.
don't even have to say Psalms 91. You just pray.
You just pray.
Bro, this
You just
is...
say, "Go
Also, look
God."
what happens when he
And
when he
yet
holds
it
up his
becomes you.
cross.
John's not giving up, bro. He's
Hold on.
going
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, it's gold again. Oh no, it's not.
Yeah, his is bronze. He might have not triggered
Wait, am I
that.
just... Am I on...
I don't know. That's weird.
Yes, Lord, I feel that.
Well, look at his
art
eyes
with
are like
me.
gold though.
His eyes are gold.
Does it not
I think he does. I think he can be killed eventually. Like you
It's
can just get
actually
hit by everything.
unspeakable. I
But...
love
If you get
the
hit by
wings.
enough stuff, I would presume.
Mhm.
I thought the unspeakable looked different.
Yeah, this is like the unholy spirit he's fighting right here.
Yeah, this is like the
Okay, bro, I'm down. Let's freaking...
main. Is this Malphus? No, we're possessed by Malphus. I thought.
Well, you get Malphus out by the third night.
Right.
I love it.
Only if you embrace the evil ending do you get fully possessed by Malphus.
Got you.
Or, something
Pretty much
else.
everything I
Like-
chose to do was pretty damn evil, honestly.
Amount of upgrades.
Dude, I was like, he was just like, I just want to see her. I just want to see Amy. I just want to see Amy. I have the gun in my hand. I just want to see her. And then you're like, I just want to shoot her. I just want to shoot her. Like,
So I can freaking space him.
I was so
was like,
curious.
God,
I did go back. I think, yeah, you saw. I went back and didn't shoot her and saw what happened. That was fun too. I felt a lot better about not
Like,
shooting her, to be
saving
honest.
grace transfigures me.
yeah, if you fast forward, I think you just get the fucking fight.
Oh
out of
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We
Thank
don't need
you.
to watch the whole fight again.
Bro gets hit so much.
But the flesh is weak. Yeah, this guy sucks.
But the flesh is weak, yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so this is what happens. A person, a man of faith, covered in divine flame, can truly defeat the unholy trinity. So you have to run into the torch and light yourself a flame and then kill them all.
And then kill him. Damn. That's wild.
And now Amy,
Yeah, Amy comes down. Amy Mia.
and look, he's trying to do the ritual again because he's using Amy as the daughter instead of the girl that he fought in the second night.
Right.
He thinks he can re-bring about the second death.
Yeah. Small mater filiat spiritus inundus.
In this moment, Amy is Lucifer. I want you to know that with the context of what's going to happen.
I believe that.
No.
Get fucked. See ya, Gary.
Failure.
God.
Because there's no mother, so it won't work.
Right. And he just gets absolutely eaten by Lucifer.
And in this ending, you save Amy.
Right. I was wondering.
Look,
Ah, look, her face is back. Amy, I'm so sorry.
even in this, like, John still doesn't think he's worthy. Like,
Right. He thinks he didn't save her, but really it seems like he did.
No, it's not.
It's over now. They can't hurt me anymore.
Is that right? Oh, we have to kill her, don't we?
and remember what he said in the first game? I have to finish what I started.
Yeah,
red, do you see this?
true.
I don't want
And
to
look.
put my crucifix up.
She's all better. Oh, and then he actually,
No,
there
in
he goes.
Patri,
He does
yeah,
the song, yep. In nomine
He finished.
Patri et
He actually
Filii
starts at the exact same sentence he ended at
Oh, really?
in
Does mean
the
that she-
flashback. Yeah.
Wow.
Amen. And look at his cross.
he
Look at his
just
cross.
covered it. Hey, now it's gold. Now
it's
it's
gold.
gold. That makes sense.
He's redeemed now.
That makes sense. That is freaking sweet.
Father
Look at
Garcia.
this. So who did all that, you think? Was that the
The
demon?
cultists, look at them on the
cultists?
ground.
Oh,
They
I
just,
see, I see.
yeah, they knew they were fucked. So
Yeah,
I
they
need
just
to
went
rethink
crazy,
everything.
ballistic.
Marathon the game again.
Nice.
that's it. Really, you saw the rest where he was like given the choice.
Yep. I like this part.
Very, very the opposite of the other ending where Garcia asks John if it's done.
Yeah, but I destroyed it with the help of the Lord. No, mijo. Disrupted the profane Sabbath.
Oh, sequel.
Hell yeah.
Spiritual warriors.
Yeah,
dude.
for real. Literal warriors. Literal spiritual warriors. And
Also, for some
because he
context on
saved
who-
Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah, for context on who Lisa is, Lisa, Marion Bell, the mother, right? Gary's mom, literally Gary's mother,
Okay. Oh, wow.
is the person who killed 12 children in a random church in Snake Meadow Hill Road. And basically, 12 kids were killed, but 2 were left to wander as husks.
We have a wife.
That's Lisa and you.
Oh,
You and
God,
Lisa
I'm
were the
gonna
ones
real
left.
choice.
Oh, really?
Are you freaking serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
And only those who have gone to the highest heights can descend into the lowest lows. So Marion Bell created a priest to make it so that he could bring him to hell. Basically, he wanted to damn a priest.
Interesting. That's probably
Oh,
part of the
wow, I'm gonna
profane
make a
ritual.
choice.
It's
to
part of
damn
the
a
profane
priest.
Sabbath.
Yeah.
To damn a
now
priest
you're
to
sitting in
hell.
the
Yeah.
front seat instead. I was in the
God,
back
this
seat
guy
with.
is-
him.
Instead of the backseat. Yeah.
my
Wow, that is
destiny.
freaking awesome. Yeah, that is interesting. That's some interesting symbolism there with the damning a priest. Like you would think that that would be Satan's like bread and butter. Like that would be like his.
It's the replacement of Job. Some people think in the interpretation where it's like where
Right.
Job's failed, he wants to fuck with John.
Yeah, because he really thought that he was gonna get Job. He really thought, like, which is Job is actually kind of a funny Bible story at some points in some of the parts.
I love the
obviously, like,
conclusion, dude. It's like I'm going to give you a whole new family. I'm going to give you no daughters. I'm going to give you a new wife. He goes, can I just get the ones that I had, please?
Can I just get the ones I had? I actually don't remember how that goes. Is that what Job says? Like,
No, he doesn't say that.
Okay,
He just takes
okay.
it right.
Yeah.
I think the justification is that I brought them to heaven. So like, do you really
Yeah.
want to take them away from heaven? Like,
Exactly. That's what I would say. Like that they all get to be in heaven. So, but that is funny. There's just something funny about Satan being like, listen, I know this guy. I know if you took away everything from him, he would come right to me. And then it's like Satan is the ultimate fool. He doesn't know anything. He knows nothing. In the same way that evil is the privation of good, his knowledge is just Satan's only like distinguishing knowledge from the other angels is just his lack of knowledge. It's what he doesn't know. He's the
it's not.
ultimate
It's
fool.
actually not what he doesn't know. That's what makes him the ultimate fool. It's that he knows it, and in spite of that, tries anyway.
I don't know. I think there's a level to him, and I take this somewhat from C.S. Lewis. I think there's a level to Satan that genuinely like he actually thought he could surpass God or be God or something, which is like
Yeah.
totally fool. I mean, it defies the logic of what God even is. Like, it would show that Satan has no conception of like, well, the philosophical stuff that we're talking about now. It's like there's no way in which a created being could be the uncaused cause, and yet Satan's like, I'm gonna try it anyway. Like but it's not possible. It's a simpleton, a foolish earthman like myself can even see that. But Satan couldn't see it.
Well, some people think that the interpretation of Lucifer's fall is because he was given free will, because he very clearly has free will, but the other angels do not seem to have free will, other
Yeah.
than maybe the archangels.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that he could not have fallen if he did not have free will, for sure.
Yeah, so some people think that him being given free will and being of the knowledge of good and evil as an
Yeah.
angel and makes him as powerful as God, as they mention in Genesis accounts.
I'm just talking about on the most basic level. It's not possible for a created being to be more powerful than the being that created it. I mean, that's just him.
I mean, it depends. It depends on what level you're talking about, but sure, on God's level, maybe.
Yeah, on God's level, I mean, it just seems absurd.
Like God, you could argue made Jesus happen, and Jesus is as powerful as the rest of the Trinity. So
Yeah, except I would say Jesus is the Word in Genesis. So Jesus already existed with God. So
yeah, sure.
God's nature is triune, and so nothing would be more powerful than the triune God. It's like a singular thing with three sort of persons or whatever. But but Satan of all people should know that an angel of all people, if even silly philosophers and humans can like forget about whether it's real or not or whether you believe it or not. It's like the paradigm that's been set up by the Orthodox and the Catholic and the serious Protestant church is that God is ineffable, uncreated, uncaused. And for anything that doesn't fall into that category, which is everything other than God, it just would be, it's totally silly to think you could like supplant him in any way. I mean, it's like a contradiction of terms. It's not even logical.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he is probably like unreasonable in a lot of what he thinks because he has free will. Like that's just kind of how he thinks. Like I think you could argue that the blind loyalty that Michael has is probably a bad case in a lot of other cases, except his blind faith is in God, so it's fine.
Right. Yeah, and there are things that simply do apply to God that would not apply to anything within creation, any creature. So again, it's like Michael being blindly loyal to like Nebuchadnezzar would make him evil. That would make him stupid and whatever. But to the uncaused cause, the uncreated being, then
doesn't really matter. Like,
yeah.
But
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting stuff. I was curious about. So you said you grew up Catholic, right?
I grew up in a Catholic.
In a Catholic community or school.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. I was gonna say that's in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
So that must have been. What is the like general vibe in Ireland now religiously? Because I would imagine it's still
how Jewish
very
people
religious.
are like culturally Jewish.
Okay.
We're culturally Catholic.
That is kind of what I was wondering. Yeah.
You obviously have everyone has the two family members, one on each side of your mom and your dad, that is like hyper religious.
That's hyper religious. Yeah. But pretty much everyone else, they just fall into the normal secular Western mindset or whatever.
Well, I mean, if you say you don't believe in God, like you get a slap across the face. But
Sure, sure. Okay.
we don't
gotcha.
talk about believing in God either. Like,
Right. Okay, interesting.
you know,
Yeah, I wonder because I'm wondering like I'd say in America we're sort of culturally Protestant, but again, no, it's mostly at least in the cities. I'm from South Carolina, which actually is super religious. A lot of the South is called it as the Bible Belt, is what it's commonly referred
mhm.
to. They actually are religious, but pretty much in the big cities in New York and everywhere in New England, Boston, and then L.A. certainly, San Francisco, like all these other cities. It's you really it's tough to even find people that aren't totally secular. Not that I even care about. I mean, none of my friends are religious at all, but and if I want to talk to religious people, I just go to church. But it is there is still that culture. There is still like the golden rule or whatever. Although, what is your intuition about this? Do you think the golden rule was something that was created by Jesus slash God slash the Bible?
Oh, absolutely not. It dates way further back than
Okay,
that.
yeah.
It dates back to Buddhism.
Where do you see that being? Oh, in Buddhism.
Well, it dates back to Buddhism. I don't know about anything further than that. It might
Yeah.
go back.
Well, it's
even
pretty
further,
intuitive.
but,
And so
like,
that again, I'm not even saying this as like a proof like Jesus came up with it, therefore he's the right guy. I'm just curious how you see that because while it is like the most intuitive moral I don't know, feeling that we have today.
well, I think
I'm curious
the most
about,
intuitive moral feeling is protecting yourself. I think that's the most intuitive moral feeling.
yes, you're right. That is definitely more intuitive. The do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Actually, now that I think about it, it's not really totally intuitive unless you do have some sort of spiritual.
Well, you have to think about it depending on the context, right? Like, is this the context in which it's similar enough for me to do unto them as I would wish them to do unto me, or they have had done unto me? Like, is this similar enough to that? Because I wouldn't, like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be shot,
Right.
but he's trying to shoot me.
But if he's shooting me,
Well, no, he's trying to shoot me. He hasn't done it yet, but he's going to.
He's
and,
trying to
like,
shoot. Yeah, to that type of point, I would say like if I'm trying to shoot someone, if I'm the one that's trying to the aggressor and trying to shoot someone, it's like no, I don't want someone to shoot me back, but I'm okay with a universe in which the basic moral law is to shoot me back. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be shooting people unless you want to get shot. Essentially, is what I would boil that down to.
And that's what one of my friends would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Or live by.
One of my friends is from
Oh yeah.
What's it called? What's the like gun populace of the fucking USA? Like,
There's a lot,
so
but
much gun
Texas
crime.
could be Texas, could be.
No, it's like a city. It's like
Oh.
a major city.
Oh well, I think actually it's a weird one because like Chicago has
it's
the
near
most
Washington
guns.
D.C.
Is it Baltimore? Baltimore, probably.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
That's
Baltimore, definitely. Baltimore. That's a great show called The Wire. It's about
it.
Baltimore.
Yeah, I've watched some of it. I stopped around season 3 because I couldn't like after they killed the guy who was like, I want to make this a legitimate business. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't care about any other villain. I literally could not care about the rest of the plot.
Yeah. Stringer Bell. I love Stringer
Yeah,
Bell.
Stringer
Like,
Bell,
he was
yeah,
going
that's-
to
yeah.
like night classes. He's trying to take like business classes for his drug empire. That was a great arc.
Because I literally thought it was just American modern Peaky Blinders, and I was like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
I'm in for it. And then they killed Tommy, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't care anymore.
All right, I don't care. Yeah, it kind of was Peaky Blinders, but like, well, yeah, there was that element. That was what was so cool about it, is that you genuinely rooted for both sides somehow. Like you wanted
because
the
he was like,
gangsters
we're
to
gonna
win,
meet
and
some
you
kinda-
wanted the police to
Yeah,
win. Yeah.
we were gonna make some kind of deal to make it so that it's better, type shit.
Oh yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to like push all the crime into certain spots so that it wouldn't affect the rest of it.
Right. New Amsterdam.
Which actually fucking happened, which is crazy.
I think that literally is like just how these lawless cities are run. Like, hold on.
I had someone pull that shit up to me when they mentioned. I remember I mentioned slavery in Exodus 21, and they were like, "Have you ever seen the Wire?" I was like, "What?" And they were like, "So what God was doing was Amsterdam," and I was like,
Amsterdam.
"Oh, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, he was sectioning off all the slavery," and I was like,
I'm not sure if that's a evolved take on that. I think there's other better takes on
"It really
slavery
wasn't.
problem.
Dude. He
in the
was
Bible.
okay." Don't get me wrong, he was not smart about it, dude, but it was funny.
But that is a funny take. I mean, in some way, I understand what he's going for. But that is just crazy because it's like,
You can only enslave the non-Jews and only enslave Jews in this specific context.
right. That's
Like-
wild. I mean, I think there's a genuine argument to be made that the rules of the Bible are, this is not a strong argument, are somewhat better about slavery than like the Hammurabi Code. Like they talk about,
Sure.
the only thing you get in the Hammurabi Code is strictly views slaves as property, but in the Old Testament, you get some little intimation of, there's a line. It's like don't harm. It's like don't pull out a tooth or harm a eye or something. Some non useful
if
for
you
work.
if
thing.
you
And
it's
so
if
the
you punch
implication-
out their eye, if you punch out their eye, you are to be brought before the court and
Yeah.
punished.
And punish, and the slave is to
However-
be freed, and the slave is to be
And the
freed.
slave is to be freed. However, and you were to give them penance, so they get paid too. However, that's only for Jewish slaves.
I'm not 100% sure about that.
That
but
is
we could look into
only
it.
for Jewish slaves.
Well, that's even if that's true, that's why I'm not gonna say this is the argument that I would stick by. Like differentiating how much, because it's obviously still like slavery. Like it's obvious. Like there's no people that say like, oh, it was indentured servitude. Everyone chose to be a slave. No, that's false. I mean, we know that. There's
I
no
remember
argument in the
Matt
Bible.
Dillahunty
Yeah.
asking someone online, like, would you be my slave under Exodus 21's rules? And they said yes, and I was abhorred. Dude, it was crazy.
Wait, what? They said Matt Dillahunty
Would
asked
you-
someone if they would.
He
be
asked
his
someone,
slave.
yeah, if they would be his slave under the rules and described in Exodus 21. And they said yes, and I was like, what, dude?
I don't even understand that. That makes no sense. Like they said they, as opposed to
They would
not
like
being
to
a slave,
be
or
a
as
slave.
fair enough.
Like if they were to be any slave, they would like to be a slave under Exodus 21's rules. And I was like,
Oh, okay. That I actually would agree. If I was going to be any slave in the ancient Near East, then yes, I would prefer to be a slave under the Exodus rules than the fucking like
I
Assyrian.
fucking wouldn't because I'm not a
Babylonian-
Jew.
Yeah. But in general, that's just a weird take. My take is going to be, this is not a commandment that's meant to persist through time. And it's right there in the New Testament. Moses suffered you to have these commandments, as in he didn't want you to, but you had to because your hearts were so hard. Jesus says, due to the hardness of your hearts, Moses suffered you these commandments. But in the beginning, it was not so. So I'm going to go with the commandments that come from the beginning, which are obviously like transcendental. And they're really just two. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and your might and your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So anything that just flies in the face of loving your neighbor as yourself, such as slavery, that there's no sense in which my God condones slavery, no matter what is
Also,
in that Bible.
one thing that people, so I don't like the argument for slavery. I can definitely use it effectively. I think it's a cop out, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
The whole Matt Dillahunty thing of being like, this is abhorrent, it's blah blah blah. I'm like,
Right.
okay, like, would you agree that slavery is necessary for the current economy of the world? Yes, it absolutely fucking is. Whether it's child slavery, whether it's slavery in the Mediterranean, like, it absolutely is the case that slavery was necessary at certain points in history to gain where we are now.
Sure.
Would it have been better otherwise? We have no fucking idea. In fact, it
no way.
might not have been, right?
Yeah, there might
Because
not have been
there-
anything.
Because less work will just be less work would have been done. Period. Right? Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing.
No.
I am, however, saying if I'm God and I have objective morals, that doesn't mean that I can't ascribe one thing in one context
Yep.
and not in another context, because it's not me that's changing. It's the world in which the context is changing.
That's fair. I think that's totally fair. And I think, again, I'm going to bring it back to the fact that free will would be a good, given that it exists.
God,
We're not
we're
getting
here
into
again.
that. Yeah, I know. We're not getting into that. But given a situation which the Bible explicitly said, or I actually don't know how explicit it is, but I think it is.
I don't think it's
necessary.
explicit, but
Yeah, I don't think it's super explicit. I think that was just sort of taken for granted. Like no one even considered that you wouldn't have free will because it's so, experiential or whatever. We didn't have this like idea of like atoms and causality on the most micro level. But
Well, the more random the world seems to you, the more free will you have. I think that's a great adage.
Sure, sure, that's fine. The more random and chaotic the world is, the more free will that you can easily see you have, or that you perceive yourself to have, or something like that.
Sure, then you perceive yourself to have. I can
Yeah,
agree
I'll
with
give you
there.
that. I'll concede that to you. But where was I even going with that? I don't really remember what we were talking about. But yes, they're not laws for all time. And this is what I was gonna say. Given if God respects free will at all, and this line about due to the hardness of their hearts, the sense that I'm getting is that these guys
After
were
Jesus,
gonna,
the hearts were unhardened. Yeah.
yeah, well, Jesus can soften your heart or whatever, but these guys, that were handed these Mosaic laws, were so evil. Like, everybody was so evil. They were just doing slavery. They were just raping, pillaging, doing slavery. And so God might try to rein them in and be like, listen, I know you guys are so evil that you just love slavery, and you would rather like abandon me than not do slavery or whatever. Or maybe, like you said, contextually it's impossible or not feasible.
Well, contextually, I was saying that it would probably achieve some kind of greater good. That's what you probably have to
Right,
argue
sure.
as a Christian.
Sure, that would be one way. That would be one way to argue for sure. That's how I do have to argue ultimately, is that every evil is in service of a greater good. So there's that. But
Well, I think that there's other evils that you could literally say is like part of is a short-term evil, a long-term good.
exactly, and that's what I would
So
say.
that so
That's what
that
I'd
the
say.
short-term evils do exist. Like
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Wait, we got some Brandon action. Brandon thinks I look fucking lit right now, and I can see it too. And to be honest, I was crying this morning, and we're not gonna get into that, so that's probably why. But no, I'm not lit, Brandon. Unfortunately, we do not have another church shill caller. No, this is infamous. Certainly the opposite of that.
you
A
want me to
lot of
argue against God? Give me one.
yeah, exactly. A lot of people would submit to slavery over freedom, as been proven. Yes, Brandon, I think, unfortunately, sometimes you are actually right about that. It's a quote that I get from. Have you ever heard of the guy
Hey, if
Michael
I'm paid
Malice?
$100 an hour, I'll be a slave right now. You can do my shit.
Yeah, for $100 an hour. Hell yeah, sign me up. But Michael Malice says people would rather be safe than free.
People would rather be safe than free. It depends on the freedoms you mean. So that's what
Well,
societies are. They're walls. Like the walls don't make you free. Are you
exactly.
talking
Yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
me
Well,
going places? Are you talking laws?
Malice is an anarchist, and he is from Soviet Russia, so he's gonna take this in an anti-communist sense. He say people loved Stalin, even though he killed all of them, because at least they knew that what they were getting. At least they had felt as if they had a strong leader to keep them safe. But of course, that was based on propaganda that the whole West was trying to kill them or whatever. But
Starting to feel very similar, isn't it?
in what sense?
It was very much the sentiments around Trump right
Oh, about
now.
Trump being a strong leader. Yeah, sure.
Strong leader, removing rights, shit like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what rights he's removed. I am happy about him cutting our government to shit. I want him to take a chainsaw and actually fucking cut out half of the
Well,
government.
I mean, some of the rights that they're taking away is the right to join the military from trans people. That's the main thing.
Oh, yes.
I should. I
That
don't,
one
personally, I don't
that
care
one I
what-
don't have an evolved take on. I'm curious to hear what you think about that. Like, why do you think he
I'm a
did do
citizen
that?
of the country.
Yeah.
I want to be able to fight for my fucking country. Simple as.
I
The
don't.
Second Amendment has no gender in it.
That's true.
Exactly.
I'm curious about whether everyone should be able. I mean, certainly not everyone should be able to fight for their country if you're a paraplegic
kids.
or something like that, or a kid or something like that. Like, I mean, but then you could still work in the military if you're a paraplegic, for instance, or someone that doesn't sort of
Sure.
stand
I
up.
guess I guess the change would be I should be able to serve in my military to protect my country
I
or
see.
aid my country.
Yeah. Comic Brandon says, I get $100 an hour to tell people to get out of my way. Engineering. Hooah. Oh, cool. Well, that's fun. Engineering. A little bit of braggadociousness in the chat there from Comic Brandon.
Wouldn't you just invent a machine to tell people to do that?
Yeah. Why don't you just invent a machine, Brandon? Come on. You can automate your job. Actually, that's a good question, whether engineering jobs will be some of the first to go.
They are going to be the first to go.
They are, right? Like, isn't that pretty much the easiest thing for a robot
well,
to do?
I guess theoretical physicists and mathematicians will be the first to go.
Oh, you think? Why Does that not
Theory is
take a
easy to
level of
do.
like creativity though, or no? Like, does every theorem follow from like sort of? I guess it does. Like things
So,
that have
so
already been.
the only theories that don't follow from each other currently, that is stopping us from getting like a theory of everything, is the gravitational force and the rest of the forces.
Oh, is that all?
Well, that's it. That's literally it. If we connect those, we are closer to a theory of everything than there has ever been. Like for instance, have you ever heard of the weak nuclear force?
Yes. Yeah.
That was combined with
With
the
the strong.
electromagnetic force
Oh, with
and the
the
strong
electromagnetic.
nuclear force
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the strong nuclear force, and so that's how we got things like and it's for instance electricity and magnetism. We have
But don't you think
electromagnetism. They were combined.
once we break apart other forces like gravity and the other one that you mentioned? Wait, so the problem is that gravity can't be like the gravitational force can't be synthesized with all the other forces, or it just doesn't make sense given
We
them.
haven't found the connection between the two. They do affect each other, but we haven't found any connections between each
Right.
between two. Now that's why we think it'll be in quantum mechanics. That's where we think we'll find that connection.
Right, right. And my thing is like, well, don't you think like it's not like when we figured out that the weak nuclear force and the electromagnetic force were different, then suddenly science was over, or like we had a theory of everything or anything like
Oh,
that.
I'm not. So a theory of everything just means that everything can be explained under the model. It's not that everything becomes explained under the model.
It just becomes that everything can be explained under that model.
For instance, all numbers are explained within the mathematics model. You know,
Okay, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like once you are able to decipher all of mathematics, which is, I mean, it's a little different because mathematics is just mathematics, right? But like
Yeah, so does
once you
that
have
mean
the thing,
but so then that's not to say that there won't be any more new mathematical theorems. It's just that maybe there won't be new numbers, something like that.
yeah, there won't be new numbers, for instance. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. So if we can synthesize gravity, what's up, David? We're talking. What are we discussing? Comic Brandon goes lies. Brandon, you beast. We're discussing. We're kind of on a random tangent right now, but we're talking about generally. We're just talking about the theory of
How
everything, which
AI
I've
will
heard of a
replace
little
mathematics.
bit. And will AI replace like physicists and like researchers and stuff like that? And yeah, I'm just not sure. So once say we can like figure out what gravity is or tie it into the rest of the forces or show sort of objectively or whatever the connection between them, don't you think that there's no way in which that'll just raise more questions or something? Or like what is a theory
Well,
of
so
everything proposed to do? It you said that it makes everything explainable under the model. But
yes, so
what
like
about things you just
all
don't
of our
know? Oh yeah, sorry.
so
Go. Just
for
turn it off.
instance, right?
Yeah.
One thing that we don't know about is dark matter, right? Which is really just non-baryonic matter.
Right.
You
Yeah,
can't
that
see it.
sounds
It doesn't
like a
interact
big-
with photons.
That sounds like a big one to figure out. Like there might be a
Yeah,
lot
right.
packed into that. You know what I mean?
There might be, right? And it makes up for about somewhere in 90% of the universe, right?
Yeah, right.
It
I've
just
heard that.
it doesn't interact with light. It's not this like magical force of quantum mania, right? It's just matter that doesn't interact with light and photons, so we can't investigate it. We have to find other methods of doing it.
I see what you mean. So once we can figure out, but if it's 90% of matter, I mean, couldn't dark matter be split up into like light gray matter and gray? Like once we figure out whatever it is, whatever the
Well,
way
so-
is that we, you know.
It's more of a yes/no situation, right? We can investigate any matter that affects any photons in any way, right? Because it has some kind of measurement on a photon
Okay.
that we can detect, right? Like
Yeah.
even if it does it in 0.000001, we can detect it, right?
Gotcha.
But non-baryonic matter doesn't interact with photons at all. So we have to find a new method of detection for it and how to investigate its properties. People think
Okay.
that the dark matter is going to be able to link gravity to the electromagnetic force and the other forces.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And what happens? Wait, this is a joke. But what happens if we discover dark matter and then all it says is God?
Oh, the God particles.
Oh yeah, didn't they call something the God particle? That
The Higgs
what was it?
boson. That
The
was going
Higgs
to be the God
boson.
particle.
That's right. That's right. But I don't know why they called it that. Do you know why they called it that?
They thought it was going to be able to solve their the God particle is the thing that is discovered to get a theory of everything.
Oh,
right? Because
okay.
God would explain everything. God particle.
Right.
It's not literal, but
And so what? Yeah, right, right. No, I get that. So what differentiates that type of discovery from a discovery within dark matter?
well, you can interact with it with light. It interacts with light.
But I mean, why? But so I'm just saying on the very fundamental layer, if they were like, okay, we're finally about to discover the thing that's gonna tie together the theory of everything,
Oh,
and
because they
suddenly
thought
it
it would
seems
be
like we have
something
no
else,
more
but it
answers.
wasn't.
Oh, they thought it was something that was gonna do something that it wasn't.
Yeah, they discovered a different particle. They thought it was going to. So first of all, they didn't know what was going to happen. Well, they did know what was going to happen, right? They didn't have the numbers. They just didn't have the. They weren't 100% sure
They
on
hadn't
what it was
proven it
specifically going to
experimentally.
get them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like, people were all like, "Oh my god, it's going to cause a black hole," when actually there was a 0% chance it was going to cause a black
Oh
hole.
yeah, yeah. That was like a small conspiracy theory I heard, or not really even a conspiracy, but it was a joke on stage where someone was like, "Should we really be starting black hole? What should we make like miles long reactors to like start black holes on Earth? That just seems like like Jurassic Park on crack. Like we've just gone way
Yeah.
too far."
Let's
but
get down on Mars first.
yeah, right. Let's get to Mars first. That's what I said. Did you see Elon Musk, his Starship landing in the ocean?
So I'd rather not talk about Elon Musk because I think
Okay.
the guy's a fucking idiot.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, he's building rockets, so I don't know what you do, but
He's not building shit.
yes, he is. What are you talking about?
He just knows a bit of engineering, dude. If you ask him
Okay.
any question based on anything outside of his limited knowledge of the field, he knows fuck all.
Yeah, but that's why he's not the actual rocket scientist. That's why he get the guy that runs the company.
Exactly. He runs the company. He's not a rocket scientist. He's a bare minimum of engineering.
So you
He's
think it
not
makes you
fucking-
you think it makes you a dumbass to run a novel rocket company that sends 7,000 satellites up into space, regardless if you
But
are
you're
the
making it sound
smartest.
like he's chucking them into space himself. He's fucking not.
Well, obviously that's not what I'm making it sound like. But given if no Elon Musk, no SpaceX, no satellites.
Sure, no fucking Steve Jobs, no iPhones. But that
Agreed.
doesn't mean he invented the iPhone.
Agreed, but I would still call Steve Jobs a genius or a smart guy, at least. Very smart.
Sure, I'll
capable
agree
man.
that Elon Musk is a smart guy in his field. I'm not saying he's not, but he's
Okay,
a
gotcha.
dumbass in a lot of other fields.
And I'll agree with you on that. And I will 100% agree with you on that. I do think there's a little bit of like, Elon, like, I'm smarter than Elon stuff going around when it's like, what company did you start that's sending rockets to the moon? I'm not saying you're doing that, but I just try to combat that whenever I see it because people are very flippant about who they're willing to call a dumbass when
No, yeah,
sometimes they're
there's like
not.
examples where he was like, "Oh, we're gonna do like." There's a video where he's like, "Oh, we're gonna do this on the bottom half of the rocket." And he goes, "Well, why don't you do it on the top?" And he's like, "Oh, no, you're right. We should do that actually." And then he implemented that shit, right? I'm
Oh.
not saying he's not smart, but
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
stop pretending he has an IQ of 210.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Henry Ford. Who's another example? Henry Ford. Damn, I can't even actually think of another example. I think that's probably the perfect example. It's
Ford,
like,
Steve
is
Jobs.
Henry Ford the smart guy that figured out the car? No, but he made it happen. He made us all drive a car. You know what I mean? Something like
I
that.
agree, he's a good salesman, right?
Sure.
I agree with that.
Sure. Businessman, I'll say. But
Yeah,
yeah.
he's a good businessman. Yeah,
Okay. Anyway, where?
I'd buy fucking Twitter.
Yeah. Exactly. David says, I worked with Steve Jobs. And smart does not mean good. I completely
Just
agree
because
with
you
on
worked a
that.
job with a guy named Steve does not mean you worked with Steve Jobs.
Yeah, true. I hope that's not what David meant. Okay, David also said the Higgs boson is popularly known as the God particle. The name originated from Nobel Prize-winning physicist Leon Lederman's book on the particle, which he titled the goddamn particle, owing to frustration over how difficult it was to detect. Cool.
Yes,
I agree
yes.
with you that intelligence does not mean good at all. Actually, there's something that I've mentioned a couple of times known as Luciferian
Satan's pretty
intelligence.
intelligent.
Yeah. What was that?
I was gonna say Satan's pretty intelligent. He doesn't exactly
Exactly.
use it for good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, it's called the
sometimes-
knowledge of good and evil.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting question, the good knowledge of good and evil. It's hard to imagine not having that knowledge. But then I think like, oh, well, my cat doesn't have that knowledge. At least I hope not. Otherwise it's a
fucking
real
cat does.
asshole. Yeah, does it? At least I hope he doesn't. But maybe they do.
The thing that I imagine humans were like before we knew we knew of evil and good in the story at
Yeah.
least is we were like golden retrievers.
Yeah, that's what I kind of picture us as well. Just sort of like happy-go-lucky, whatever, just animals hanging out. Yeah, it's really incredible how C.S. Lewis paints that picture in his book. I know I've already talked about it though, so we won't get into it. But just yeah, just the it's like a naivete, but it's also so like pure that you don't even want to call it like ignorance. It's just pureness or something. What?
Well, I mean, it is ignorance at the end of the day.
I guess it is ignorance. I guess it depends on your context, right? So it's only ignorance because the sinful earthman comes and reveals that lying is even a concept. But if you live on a planet by yourself, which is what this story is, it's like an Adam and Eve story, and it's Venus. So if you live on Venus by yourself with just your other perfect husband or whatever, there's no lying. And you're not ignorant for not believing in lying or not knowing about it, because it just doesn't exist in your framework until it then gets entered in. But yeah, it's a tough thing.
It's like for instance, there's I think you already mentioned it, like a tribe that doesn't believe in any God concept. Yeah.
A tribe that doesn't believe in God, or what?
Well, not in God. I'm talking about there's a tribe. I can't remember the name of it in the Amazon or something that did not believe in any concept of God.
Oh, really? Wow.
No, the missionaries tried to explain it to them, and they were like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Well, what were they? I mean, they were materialists, or
They just didn't have a concept of God.
yeah,
They'd never heard of it.
that's interesting. But they didn't have any. I mean, you're saying what I'm taking from this is that they didn't have
No
any,
greater power.
no
nothing.
higher power. There was no God of the river and God of the tree. They just sort of lived. Hey, that sort of makes sense. I mean, that sounds sort of Edenic in a way. I mean, I'd like to know that.
They just watched. God was watching them find this place, and he was like, "Fuck." They were like the best ones.
They were the only ones untainted. I mean, I'm sure, yeah, I guess they probably wouldn't have been doing weird shit. Most of the weird shit in history does seem to be religious, like child sacrifice and like, I don't know, the Aztec stuff of, did you hear about that when they I can't remember if it's Aztec or Maya, but basically there was an account of like, you know, conquistadors or whatever that went over, and then they reported that on the top of the pyramid there was just a river of blood flowing down, and they're like, these guys must have been sacrificing like thousands of people per day. And then for like, you know, for like 300 years we were like, this damn conquistadors just exaggerating so they could wipe out whoever they wanted with no feeling less guilt or whatever. And then they did the excavation on one of these sites and found they were sacrificing, I want to get the number right, so I'll ask ChatGPT, or maybe I should look it up online, but
I would look it up online.
okay. How many people were sacrificed?
What is the difference between a cult and a religion? Not much, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, what's the difference between a cult and a religion? Well, yeah, a cult is just a subsect of religion. They're called, in scholarship, they're called new religious movements. It's a little too I don't know, congratulatory, or a little, it like makes a cult seem less like a bad thing when you call it that, but that's okay. Maybe they're not all bad.
I mean, hey, don't you think that every other religion is a cult because it's a bad thing?
No, I don't think every other religion's a bad thing. I think they're good, actually, a lot of them.
Don't you think they're false preaching, though?
Yeah, I think they're false, but that doesn't mean they don't contain, I think the most fundamental claims of them are false. That doesn't mean that there's not true things in them. Like you said, how the Buddhists derived that you should treat others like you would treat yourself. Like, that's totally valuable. Where
I find it weird that not all Christians are Buddhists, personally, because it's just funnily like enough, probably exactly what Jesus, if he existed, taught.
You could be a Buddhist Christian in a sense, but not fundamentally, I don't think.
Not fundamentally, but like, for instance, outside of the I am God bullshit, Jesus literally just taught Buddhism.
Yeah. But see, to me, that doesn't discount Christianity or Buddhism, but it also doesn't discount the claim of I am God. In fact, that would actually strengthen the claim of I am God. If he came out of if he's a Jewish rabbi essentially teaching Buddhism, you would assume that he has some sort of like metaphysical knowledge that is just totally foreign to him. Like, how would he get this? I know people say like the lost years of Jesus, he went to Asia, he learned from the Buddhists or whatever. I mean, maybe.
I fucking doubt it.
Maybe, but I doubt it. I really doubt it. Considering the
He
length
spent
of that
40 years
journey,
wandering a desert, dude. I don't think he was doing much.
and then they wouldn't mention that. They wouldn't mention that he was in Asia, that he went off, like, anyway. So,
But also, he was like
okay.
seemingly the perfect human or whatever. Let's not pretend like he couldn't think about what would have eventually thought of throughout like his whole lifetime in 40 years.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I mean, I think if any, the way that I would frame it, although you're not going to like this, is that he created the thing that Buddha was discovering for himself. That took Buddha so long. Jesus just has that knowledge because he created it. Okay, so this is the historyonthenet.com. So I don't know how legit this is, but we'll see what they have to say about the Aztec. A couple of dozen skeletons. Okay, human sacrifices in Aztecs were part of religious ceremony. Number of people sacrificed Aztec is a mystery and will probably remain a mystery. Whether only a few thousand victims were only a few thousand victims were sacrificed each year, or 250,000, as some scholars say. Few human remains, such as bones, have been found at Templo Mayor or the other Aztec temples. A couple dozen skeletons and a few thousand loose bones and skulls do not add up to 250,000. Totally agree. Let's see. In 1487, dedicating the main Aztec city of Tenochtitlan with a 4-day celebration. How many were sacrificed during that time is a subject of scholarly speculation. Some put the figure as low over 4 days as 10,000 or 20,000. Several others put it as high as 80,000 to 80,400 people. If it's the case that it was 80,000, they'd be sacrificing 14 people every minute, which is obviously physically impossible. But at one of those lower numbers,
10,000 would be like 3 people a day or something like that.
Yeah, that's just nuts.
I personally think.
Yeah, what do you think about this?
So, one thing you have to understand about the pyramids is the pyramids of Giza, for instance, were actually further from, let's say, Caesar and the pharaohs of the time.
Yeah.
Than like we
the
are
Statue
today.
of Liberty. Yeah. No, I've heard that. Yeah.
So, like, think of that amount of time and think about one person a day.
Oh, yeah.
Like, easy 10,000. Easy.
Oh, easily. I mean, many, many more than that, probably.
Have you ever heard of Stonehenge? It's an Irish. An Irish thing.
Oh, is it in Ireland? It's famous. Yeah. It's world famous. But I knew it was
not
in
Stonehenge.
the UK.
Shit. Newgrange, not Stonehenge.
Oh, okay. Newgrange. No, I haven't heard of it. How do I spell that?
So, just New and then Grange, like G and then range.
I found it. Yeah, Newgrange.
So, it is a winter solstice chamber. It is very similar to the pyramids, built around the exact same time as the pyramids in Ireland.
Wow, dude, look at this. Wait, I don't know if I'm not still streaming on Discord.
It's an ancient burial chamber.
Dude, it is so cool. Look at that. Have you been there?
I have.
Wow, dude.
Massive.
I'm so curious.
It was actually excavated from a hill.
Real, like the hill had grown around it.
So see the top of Newgrange? Now imagine that concaving down into the rest of the land. Yep. It had to be all dug out and excavated.
Wow, dude. Wow.
That's how old it is.
That is so incredible. Well, so do you give any credit to these sort of like theories about prior civilizations to ours that got wiped out?
Well, so like, I definitely don't believe that the pyramids were like a fucking nuclear fission machine like some people believe.
Sure, yeah, I wouldn't expect you to believe that. But
I also don't think they knew more than us, but
yeah,
I definitely think that they are probably older than people think because there is some creature between man and our previous ancestor that was as smart as us.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we didn't suddenly just get smart through some kind of random mutation. We just were a gradient of smart for a long time.
Yeah. That's
so
my
these
intuition.
Buildings are older than I think they are, but.
Yeah,
I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not an archaeologist.
No, me neither. I've just seen a few like clips or whatever, and like just random Joe Rogan shit. But which makes you wonder.
Dude,
I mean, it's not like I take that as fact, but it just makes you wonder.
I hate Joe Rogan's fucking podcast, dude, because of the amount of like. Well, I hate it because of the people he lets on there, dude, like Terrence Howard and conspiracy theorists and like.
Yeah, but my thing is like, let him talk, dude. Let the people talk. If they're idiots, then you can easily disprove them, and that's what happened with Terrence Howard. There was videos all over the place, and I know there's gonna be other idiots that go like, "Well, Terrence Howard said on Joe Rogan that the world is flat," and it's like, okay, if you're that dumb or if you're that like gullible, I don't know. It's not even gullible because it's like Terrence Howard also believes it himself. Whatever he said, I know he didn't say the Earth is flat, but it's like.
But
So
then
should
Joe
we
Rogan
shut up
being
all
like,
the idiots or should we
"That
let them
guy-"
talk? I think we should let them talk.
But then Joe Rogan's like, that guy is so fucking smart.
Right.
And I'm like, no, he's not.
Well, one of the
You're,
funny things
like-
is Joe Rogan had Billy Carson on, which actually this intersects with our
Billy Carson, yeah, no, I remember, I know the exact thing you're talking about. Billy
Yep.
Carson was like, oh yeah, we called yesterday, and then they had their whole thing, and like, it's just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
crazy.
So Billy Carson would say stuff like, it's in the Bible. The pyramids were built by aliens, and then he'll point to some like the Gospel of Didymus from like the year 400 like AD, and then you'll be like, whatever. So he just makes shit up and finds like the loosest references. And this guy Wes Huff eventually debated him, and Wes Huff is a actual bona fide biblical scholar.
I fucking need to see that.
It's great. Wes Huff destroyed him, and so Billy Carson will say shit like,
Billy Carson, dude.
yeah. He got wrecked, and well, now his career's over. And
Oh, really?
Joe Rogan saw Billy Carson has been melting down, and he was sending Wes Huff like death threats or something. Like he was threatening his family and shit. So
See,
Billy
this is what
Carson's
I'm talking
done.
about. Like this is what I'm talking about though. Like Joe platformed this fucking idiot.
But
and I
then
don't-
Joe
I don't
brought
care
on
about the
Wes
whole-
Huff. Then Joe Rogan brought on Wes Huff after he saw that and was like, okay, spell us out the real truth. And then we got a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast, which goes out to millions of people, which was a Christian biblical scholar actually explaining the historicity of the Bible, which you should watch too if you're interested. I don't think there's nothing. Alex O'Connor made a response video critiquing his one. I mean, it's a 3-hour conversation.
It's the thing about the I know the one you're
Great
talking
Isaiah
about.
Scroll.
Where it's,
Yeah, the Great-
Yeah,
the
it's
Great
the
Isaiah
one
Scroll.
that he dates it, and he's like completely fucking wrong.
No. He says that the Great Isaiah Scroll is word for word identical with the Masoretic text, and
Oh,
it's
yeah, that
not
one.
word
Yeah,
for
yeah,
word,
yeah.
but it's got like I don't know, like 300 variants or something like that. But the variants are all meaningless. There's nothing theologically significant about the variants. So
Yeah, I
it's
don't
like
really care about
spirit
that
of it is
one
kind of
because-
true. But anyway.
Yeah, I didn't really care about that. I did care about the misinformation about like when what was it, Paul? Which one's the earliest apostle again? I can't remember.
I
think it's Paul.
The earliest writings we have are from Paul. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically he was saying that like Paul happened way earlier than scholars say that it happened.
Yeah, Wes is gonna give Wes is gonna give a. Well, I actually don't know which way you go. Is it conservative or liberal? If it's earlier, I guess conservative. I actually don't know because
Well,
the
no, I
scholarship is
actually think-
entirely against early dating, but
He's for early dating.
yeah,
That's my point.
but he's not alone, and there are other like I think there isn't at least a debate to be had about the early dating, but Wes Huff is pretty clear that like, okay, I'm gonna say Paul wrote this in 40, and the latest dating scholar is gonna say it was in 70. So you kind of have that, and you're like, okay, what is the difference between 40?
It's probably
and 70?
60.
Really?
It's probably 60.
Right, it's probably somewhere in the middle, right, somewhere like that. So you go.
Yeah, I'm actually better to go closer to his than I would be the latest scholar because we just don't have enough accurate information for it to be that late.
Right, true. Yeah. That's a good
But
point.
it's definitely not as early as he was talking.
Yeah, probably isn't. I think he did throw out that like there is a possibility that one of these letters was written within like 3 years.
100
of
years.
Jesus'
100
death.
years.
Well, most of it was written. The Gospels were written within 100 years.
Right. No, but like I think it's written within 100 years.
Oh, that's what you think.
However,
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, and I have no problem with that either. I think that's what the
Yeah.
scholarship says. So
He said 3 years, which is fucking wrong.
Yeah. I mean, and again, he's not saying the Gospel of John was written 3 years after Jesus died. Like no one could say that. I think he was referencing a specific letter, and maybe it's controversial, maybe it's not. I don't know, but
It's pretty controversial within biblical scholarly debate, I will say, because not because of the facts, but because the people who want it to be early are really, really wanting it to be early.
Sure. Although I don't see why
but
they
yeah.
would want that particular. I don't see why they would risk their.
They want Paul's
scholarly
shit to be
status.
earlier. They want Paul's shit to be earlier so that the historicity of Jesus is stronger. That's the.
it's not even that much stronger, honestly. I mean, but the difference between being 3 years and 40 or 60 years away, I guess it is. It is stronger.
The 3
It is
years,
stronger.
like, what do you remember 3 years ago versus the start of your life? Like,
Yeah,
dude?
but we're talking about a tradition, an oral tradition that gets written down. So in terms of a letter, yeah, I guess in terms of a letter, it would be better
Even
if it
oral
was 3
tradition that's
years
written
versus
down,
60.
like,
Yeah, I get it. I get why you would be. I think you're right, and I should be more skeptical. I think I would be right to be skeptical of very early datings. I agree with that.
yeah. And my main thing is that the reason I don't like Joe Rogan is because he's not very skeptical.
No,
He'll show
no,
moments
no.
of it, but
But
he's
that's
not.
just not his role.
And
That's just not what he does. Like, he knows he's a monkey. You know what I mean? Like that, he just brings on everybody and anybody. So it's like, do I watch? Am I a Joe Rogan watcher? Absolutely not. I've skipped 99.9999999% of all episodes. But then I see a Wes Huff on Joe Rogan. Hey, that's a 3-hour conversation between a scholar that I really like and a moron. And so he's going to be able to explain things to a moron. And if he does, I mean, he happened to be able to do it. Some people fail at that. So I don't have a problem with that. I think there should be a place for smart people to come on and explain shit to a moron, basically.
yeah, and my main point about Joe Rogan specifically is that he brings on a lot more morons than he does professionals. Like, he doesn't bring on as many scientists as he does conspiracy theorists, for instance.
Right, definitely agree with that, and that's probably
And I
why
think
it's so
that he
popular.
needs
Right? yeah, I agree with you on that. I can agree with you on that one for sure. Okay, let's see what David said. Joke, what is the difference between a cult and a religion? A religion has more members. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's funny. Maybe we should get back into that. What is the actual difference between a cult and a religion?
There really
And
isn't one, to be quite honest with you.
But Rogan rarely pushes back on false claims. Yeah, I don't think he ever does. So that is a major. You have to watch it with a majorly skeptical. You have to ask those questions yourself, and sometimes you're just not going to get them from the podcast.
But you have to ask a lot more questions to yourself about wrong shit than right shit.
Right. So the difference between a cult and a religion, is it simply
It is
the
probably
membership?
the size.
Is
It's
it
probably the
simply
size,
the
yeah.
membership? Yeah. I think if you wanted to really get into it, you're going to be able to find very specific differences. Like, for instance, what the metaphysical claims are. I think a cult is almost... Well, but the Christian tradition is extremely apocalyptic.
Christians have had cults, you know what I mean?
And there have been definitely Christian cults. Scientology, not the Scientology. Mormonism, for instance.
Scientology is crazy.
Yeah.
Christian cult, famously Scientology.
Yeah. No, anti-Christian. Oh, Scientology. So I went to the Scientology Center here in LA, which is one of their main, like, campuses or whatever, main places. And I took the test.
The test, yeah.
And it didn't do anything. It means nothing,
Yeah.
obviously. It's total pseudoscience bullshit. But what they were doing, which was really sad, is they take in immigrants off the street that barely speak English, and then they, like, basically tell them, like, oh, this is American culture. Like, this is how you're going to integrate into American culture. Like, this is the religion. You know, you got to have an American religion. This is it. And so when I was walking through their headquarters, you just see all these, like, Mexican people that basically don't speak any English getting, like, proselytized by these Scientologists. And it is creepy. And it costs money to be a Scientologist. Like, it is a business, first and foremost.
Yeah, I think that maybe the earliest versions of differentiating a cult from a religion was its purpose being to launder money.
Yeah, for real.
But then you have the Catholic Church, who have a country, so or have a city.
Yeah.
So, you know,
the Catholic
and
Church
the main guy is sitting on a golden throne. So, you know.
Yeah, and I've come around on the Catholics a little bit. You know, I used to be super like the Pope, and I still.
I mean, dude, he's literally saying he's the right hand of God.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
I can't
opposite of humility. Like,
yeah, I just can't really.
You know who said that? Lucifer.
yeah, literally. That's what you and Mel Gibson have a very similar take, but
don't even know who that is.
Oh, you don't know Mel Gibson?
I don't know a lot of. I was born 2001, dude. I don't know a lot of these people.
Yeah, he's Mel Gibson is I was born in 1999, but Mel Gibson is a Australian actor in such movies as The Patriots, Braveheart, and famously, of course, The Passion of the Christ. He directed that.
Oh, right.
And so he is a quote unquote Catholic, but I saw an interview with him recently where he literally said the Pope is the devil, and basically used the exact same logic that you did. That he like.
I mean, dude,
was,
he's Gary, dude. Like,
yeah,
you know
he's
what I mean?
Gary.
Like,
Yeah, I think there might be something to that.
the Pope loves you very much. Like,
The Pope loves you very much. I just could never get behind papal infallibility, like basically for the exact reason that you said. And it is a little, basically someone put it this way. It's like, a Protestant was critiquing the Pope, and then the Catholic responded, well, how do you settle like theological disputes? Don't you have a pastor? And then the Protestant goes, yeah, but if my pastor started touching kids or saying crazy shit, I would get a new pastor. You cannot do that. So that's a really serious thing. Yeah, you cannot you cannot question him. And the Orthodox are much better. They don't have anything like that. They don't have a pope or anything.
I would actually argue that literally Protestants are more Christian in terms of what Jesus wanted than Catholics.
Yeah, I think a lot of Protestants would argue that as well. I mean, I love my Catholic brothers. There's some really good ones. There's some really, and
I agree.
They produced, obviously the Catholic Church produced, and the question is it the same church today as it was back then? But like,
it's
the
absolutely
great
not.
church fathers, yeah, Augustine, and I agree that it's absolutely not. But so I think being a Protestant is good so long as you still, which I am, and I strive to still situate myself within church history and within apostolic succession as well as I possibly can, even though I don't have the quote unquote apostolic succession as a literal figurative person that I must obey or whatever, an infallible.
I mean, what do you think about divorce?
Divorce. I mean, that's a good question. Should it be illegal? No. I mean, of course not.
Well, I more mean like let's say we had a Christian theocracy. What should be the rule on it? You know what I mean?
I don't think we should ever have a Christian theocracy, but okay. So if I'm making
really, ooh.
No theocracy,
yeah, something ruled by the Christian state. Yeah.
No, I mean that's what we tried for like the last 1,200 years. I think people should freely choose Christianity out of all the options, having total religious freedom. Not that they should choose, but that would be my hope.
What if you could do that? What if you could do that in the theocracy?
What if everybody chose a theocracy?
No. What if everyone could choose another religion, but the purveying society was a theocracy?
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. And still in that society, I would not outlaw divorce.
Okay.
I would. My take on divorce is like when I read it in the Bible, where Jesus says like, literally like, "Thou shalt not get divorced." Basically, he does give one exception, which is, I believe, adultery, but maybe it has a different meaning. I'm not sure.
Well, you get stoned to death, so yeah, until death do us part and all that.
Until death do us part. I don't think Jesus would ever have said that if you divorce, then you should kill the woman or the man, because that's what the rule of law was in a way back then, and became afterwards.
Well, the sacrificial laws are the ones that majorly got removed by Jesus' sacrifice. A lot of the ones that have to do with more abstract things like adultery and some of the stuff mentioned in like the Old Testament never really gets affected by Jesus.
Well, anything
like
that,
at least not directly.
Anything that contravenes or contradicts that loving your neighbor as yourself, to me, gets that's addressed by Jesus.
Right, but if you love your neighbor too much, I think that you have to be punished.
Yeah, I understand. So in terms of divorce, it's like I would say the way to live your life is to seek to never get divorced, and that means to be dedicated to your marriage and to try to marry someone who's going to be dedicated to you. And so that would be how I read that. And then I would never impose that legalistically on people. Because I understand. I mean, I just know so many cases of friends whose parents got divorced and just people who have been divorced where it's like, yeah, I mean, if you ask me, you guys never should have gotten married. But if you're in this situation, you got married hastily or whatever, then yeah, I mean, you can't force two people to be together. I think that would contravene, or I think that would just go against the will of Christ, really.
Well, it also makes sense that like Jesus himself said, like I can't remember the exact words, right? I don't have the
Yeah.
whole Bible memorized,
Yeah.
but he did say that like if you admit your mistakes, like you can come back to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. And then
And
repentance is yeah. Oh yeah, sorry.
marrying the wrong person is a mistake. Or
It
marrying a
is.
person and then promising God you could stay with them without knowing fully who they are is a
Yep.
mistake.
I agree. Totally. 100%. And so there's always room for repentance. Yeah. The only controversial commandment that Jesus gives is in my opinion, is the one.
Stay with your masters, even the evil ones.
Um, yeah, I guess that one is controversial. I wasn't even thinking about that one.
Yeah, stay with
But
your masters, even the cruel ones.
although honestly, that's still sort of apply that to me that rings as render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's. That's how that rings to me. Not like you should have a master or you should have a slave. Like in the situation in which you have a master and a slave, love the master, love your slave.
I remember, somebody argued with me about that because they really didn't give a fuck whether or not God was evil or not. Because they didn't care. They didn't care.
They
They were
just
like, we
didn't
should
care.
still
They're
serve
like, ah,
him.
that's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. We should still serve him. He's gone.
That is
So
funny.
he was just
That is
like,
a hard line take.
so what he said when I brought this up to him,
Yeah.
when he said like, I was like, do you know that Jesus said like serve your masters, even the cruel ones? And he was
Yep.
like, yeah, that makes sense. And he goes like, but isn't that evil? And he was like, yeah, serve your masters, even the cruel ones. I'm like,
Oh my god.
oh, you're a
As if
fucking
Jesus was
dickhead.
saying,
Like,
I am a cruel master, so serve.
yeah,
That is like the
exactly.
most horrific. Was this was a Christian? Obviously, if they're
Yeah, he was.
that is crazy. I mean, that's just insane. So there has to be a level that is what
I
happens
had to
when
respect it, dude. I had to respect it. I was like,
yeah,
fuck, he's right.
at a certain level you do have to at a certain level you just have to respect it. But as long as that's what a lot of debating this stuff I think is. It's not like you're going to convince me or I'm going to convince you or whatever, but you display what the position of the other side costs. So in that case, you won, obviously. You showed that in order to worship God or whatever, in this person's paradigm, it means to literally be okay with being the slave of an evil master. That guy
Well, I mean, I
lost.
won because I made him look like an idiot.
And you
That's
make
the
him look
debate.
like that's like the simpler view of it. But yeah,
But
exactly.
like it's not about who wins the debate. It's about what's true and how we know it. Like I
Right.
think that honestly, if you have to give up something, if you had to give up everything, but it was still true, I don't care.
So on the point of how we know, and this might get exactly into free will territory, not literally, but just it's going to be epistemology. But like, what is your epistemology? Like how? So in terms of the transcendentals, one of them is knowledge itself, and it's my understanding that knowledge is impossible without an objective base of knowledge. Or do you disagree with that?
Objective knowledge is knowledge. It's not.
Objective knowledge is knowledge. So
No.
sorry. What did you just say?
Well, okay. What do you think? Let's define knowledge because I use the definition. Reasonably true belief.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
like you could
reasonably
believe something
true.
that isn't true, but you
Reasonably.
still believe it.
Yeah. So, so the definition you want to use for knowledge, which I'm okay with, if this is the one you are putting forward, I don't know. Knowledge equals a reasonably true belief.
Sure, we can go with that. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds fair to me. And so, on what basis can you have reasonably true beliefs? Do you believe that truth is subjective? By the way, I haven't. I think we went over this.
No, truth I think correlates with reality.
Okay.
As we assume it, based on our experiences. Because obviously, I can't take the red pill until someone asks me to take the red pill. I have to observe this experience.
Yes. Yeah.
Until someone shows me a way out. You know what I mean? It's the problem of solipsism.
Right. So yeah, exactly. So you're not a solipsist.
Well, I mean, no one is a solipsist. They just can't prove they're not a solipsist.
Sure. Fair
That's the
enough.
joke. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. I would argue that some people actually think they are, but anyway. But you
Those are true solipsists. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so On what? So then, why do you believe in objective truth, but not like objective morality or other transcendentals? Like, is there a differentiator there, or what is the?
Well, so there are two things that I believe we can prove. Obviously, I think therefore I am proves well. It doesn't prove it, but it's the most natural like law of identity.
Sure.
Um, I am the experiencer, but an experiencer implies an experience. So, what is the true nature of that experience? And that's what objective truth is.
Okay. So what is the
That's
true
the only
nature
two
of the
things.
oh, and then you would say the true nature of the experience of like morality or basically any of the other transcendentals
Is
is
unknowable because you can't assume anything past. You have an experience and you are experiencing it.
but if you can't assume anything past you have an experience and you are experiencing it, then you can't presume objective truth either.
Well, you can presume it. You just can't presume you know it.
Uh
So, like for
Wait a
instance,
second.
the experience is true because you are an experiencer, and so the experiencer exists and the experience exists. The experience is the true thing.
So
However,
okay. Keep going.
is what you experience,
Mhm.
like what you see, what you feel, touch, everything. Does that comport to the true nature of the experience, or is that just what I feel about it?
I see. I would
So,
say
like for instance,
no. Yeah.
if you were in a coma, right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you experience a dream,
Yeah.
there's a true nature to that dream, which would be you're laying in a bed in a coma, but the dream is not true.
Okay.
The true thing would be you're in the bed in the coma.
Well, that's we might have to get deeper into what you mean by true. I mean that
Well,
seems
so
like a dream seems like a true experience to me, but it exists.
that's because we both view the metaphysical differently. So think about it like this:
But you don't think of things
you're colorblind.
existing in your mind as existing?
Well, no, a pink elephant doesn't actually exist.
Oh, okay. This might just
So,
be
like,
this might be a fundamental difference. We might not be able to agree
that's
on
fine.
this.
I can bring up a different example because
Okay.
that's just an example.
Yeah.
You're colorblind, right?
Okay.
You look at a tree.
Yep.
The tree is blue. Your experience, and you are the experiencer,
Okay.
is that tree is purple.
It's purple.
Some amount of that experience is objectively true,
Yep.
which is that there's a tree.
Yep.
But you're the experiencer, the filter for the experience is that it's purple, but it wouldn't be.
Right.
So the experience exists, but you are a wrong filter. You're like filtering it through incorrectly, and that's what the experiencer does. So there's something that's happening and being pressed upon you,
Yep.
right? That's because that's how you're an experiencer.
Okay.
Is what you experience true? Well, we have to study and find out, because sometimes our experiences aren't true.
Totally. I mean, I agree with you. That's my fundamental objection to subjective truth. A lot of people will come on here and say, in the same exact way that they'll say morality, it cannot be objective, that it's only subjective. They will say that truth itself is subjective, but this is self-defeating.
Well, yeah, is that true?
Exactly. Exactly. How can you make an objective truth claim from a subjective, with only subjective truth exists? Exactly. So I just want to make sure that you are not one of the people that tries to make an objective truth claim and also tries to sneak in that only subjective truth exists.
Yeah, like people like Matt Dillon who do that. Like they raise a valid, like epistemological point. Like, is that true? If you're saying, are you saying something that's objectively true? And I think someone caught him out and he said no, which I was like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
But like,
Yeah.
but like you can essentially view it as an experiencer exists.
Yep.
You exist.
Yeah.
Now that means something must be imparted upon you
Yeah.
for you to experience it.
I agree. Yeah.
So there's some truth about that experience.
Yep.
However, you being a filter only get to see some amount of that experience. I can't see what's
Yeah.
behind me, for instance.
Yeah.
Right? Is that true if we compare what you experienced to the actual thing that's being imparted upon you? We can't actually compare the both of them.
And
So we
to-
can only get
yeah.
closer to it.
And then, yeah, okay. No, I totally get that. What would
Yeah.
your intuition be about why we experience morality, for instance? I think I could guess, but I want to hear what you would have to say. It's a genetic, it helps us propagate
It's not
the
necessarily genetic. I think that the starting point of wanting to be alive is probably some kind of genetic predisposition.
Okay.
But all of their morality is derived from sociological advantages. For instance, the rich man who likes killing and murdering and eating is only really defeated by the poor man if he says he's going to go to hell.
Um,
Or
yeah.
there's a lot of poor people.
Yeah. No. I mean, that is a genuine reason to believe in a divine judgment, or not a genuine reason to believe in it, but it is
Well,
a.
religion has been a very advantageous position for the poor
What's that?
throughout history. Religion has been a very advantageous thing throughout history for the poor.
Yeah,
It's
and
also been
mostly.
advantageous at points for the rich because the poor then become the rich over a few generations.
Yeah, usually. I mean, Christianity is specifically sort of harsh almost against the rich. Really, it is, and this is Nietzsche's like major. His whole point is like that it's this slave.
Give to the poor, the
Yeah.
Pope says, while he wields his golden staff and his golden pillow.
Right. Well, then again, that's not what the book says though. Like whatever. Jesus never wielded a golden
More-
staff while
yeah,
saying
yeah.
give to the poor. He was a poor guy, giving to the poor, healing the whatever.
Ah, yes, the poor man is like, give to the poor. I wonder what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had plenty of riches. I think he could have probably procured as much gold as he wanted. But anyway, I mean, I don't even mean mysteriously, just by like even if he wasn't actually healing people.
Well, it's what he told the devil in the 40 years.
Exactly.
Or the 49.
Exactly. That's
Like,
the point.
He literally,
Of temptation.
yeah, he literally, like, he got tempted by the devil and he was, Lord, all these kingdoms, I can give them to you. And he was like,
He's like,
I will literally inherit the kingdom of heaven. What do
yeah,
you want
like
from me?"
okay, buddy. That is one of the best scenes ever in the Bible. There, the temptations of Christ.
I just like to imagine his face like, huh?
Yeah, like who's Satan just being like, wait, it's not working.
I thought you were just dumb because I was God, but now that I'm human, you're still kind of dumb.
Yeah, you're still kind of freaking stupid. That's what I'm saying. Satan literally is like foolish. Obviously, he has
Okay, I
intellect.
forgive no human now. Every human that fucking falls for your shit is getting everything. They come
Yeah,
from.
yeah, exactly.
Dumb
You know, I
bullshit.
bet there must have been that instinct or something in the Garden of Eden when God was. I mean, you even see it in the narrative a little bit where God's like, "You did what? That snake? You listened to him? It was the one thing I told you." It's just kind of a funny image.
And, yeah, but then I'm reading the Bible and I'm like, dude, you let the snake in?
Yeah, and then I read that and I'm like, you had no other choice, Lord. Why did they actually do this to you? So anyway,
And
it's
I'm
just
like,
how you read
You're
it. It's just how-
omnipotent and you had no other choice?
Oh yeah, well we already established that omnipotence means you can only do what is possible.
Wait, did you say God has no other choice?
Yeah, of course God has no other choice. If he wants to create a
So
free
he doesn't
agent,
have free will?
well, of course he has free will. Just because you can't choose to do
I know,
anything.
I'm joking.
I got you, brother. It comes down to how you're gonna read it most of the time. Is the only point I'm making. I'm not saying anything. Okay, so the way that you ground morality is in sociological structures. Basically, pretty much every moral intuition we have, or actually every moral intuition we have, comes from our some sort of desire, genetic desire, or call it
Sociological
yeah,
desires with genetic basis, I would say. because the
sociological
genetic basis is to
desire
outlive.
with a genetic basis. David has a comment here. Omnipotent means you can only do what is possible. Is that what you said? Yes, David.
I mean, that is the modern interpretation
That
of
would be the correct
monotheistic
philosophy.
gods.
That's exactly what Aquinas is going to say as well. So even back in the Middle Ages, they're gonna understand omnipotence as doing what is possible. I mean, and the way that
his
you can
definition
think,
was controversial at the time. I will say
and
that his definition was
I'm
controversial
sure it was. Yeah, I'm sure it was.
because he was literally saying God can't do things, and the church was like, absolutely fucking not.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well, that just must be the case because things that self-contradict, it's like even if he did create it in the same instance that it was created, it would be canceled out. So it's like, in what sense can it be done? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How can you walk on water then, or come back to life? Well, those things are obviously possible. When I say impossible, yeah, we have to expand.
Let's be
our
very
range.
clear here.
Yeah, we have to be clear.
Cloning someone isn't impossible. We've done it with individual particles. So I'm pretty sure if you were God, doing it with every particle of an alive person at the time they were alive and bringing them back to life would not be impossible for God.
Sure, yeah, if that's how he wanted to do it, yeah, absolutely. And so
Yeah.
even walking on water, I mean, you've seen David Blaine do it as a magic trick, so there's some level of possibility. But when I'm talking about possibility, I'm talking about things that cancel itself out, like self
Square, circle, triangular
self-referential
circle.
contradiction. So a square circle. The instant that a square starts to become a circle, it's just never a square in any sense. Like that type of thing. Like logical contradictions, things that do not make sense. So things like rising from the dead or walking on water or turning water into wine, those are miracles. They're not impossible.
The best way to describe it is that it's impossible normally.
Well, no, because he's going to say normally because water doesn't turn into wine or because people don't walk on water. That's what you mean by that.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that normally those things don't happen. God isn't normal.
Oh, yes. So what I'm going to respond to David is miracles they subvert the normal laws of nature. They go against the normal laws of nature. That's a good way to put it. But they're in no sense impossible. Like if you can imagine it being done, it's already sort of possible. For pretty much anything. A square circle, you can't imagine. You just simply can't. I can't. I don't know if you can, maybe. But, there's a difference.
Can God imagine a square circle?
That is a good question. And I'm going to say nope. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, he can't because it would be the same thing as because everything that exists is his being. So
yes,
his
right.
imagination would also be his being.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to say no, for sure. So, yeah. They've never shown to be possible. Are debatable, but I get what you're saying. I mean, if
the Bible is to be believed, raising the dead happens every other day. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if these things were think about it this way: if these things were normal, like walking on water or turning water into wine or something like that, then there would be absolutely no reason to even write the Bible, or Jesus would just be like a normal ass dude. Walking around.
Dude, the real miracle was him being pasty fucking white, dude. Bro, like a snowman.
Yeah, pasty white guy Jesus.
Got albino Buddha over here.
Yep, albino Buddha. I wonder what Buddha looked like. I guess he came from India. Was he just an Indian guy? He always does have this sort of lighter skin when they depict him. I don't know why.
Well, it was because purity was viewed that way, like ivory at the time. But
it was purity. Well, and also in India, it's extremely racist. So it's like the lighter your skin, the higher your caste is, and stuff like that.
Well, also like they're from South Asia, so East Asians existed too. Yeah,
I don't know where exactly Siddhartha was from, but I would take that to mean he's from that Eastern Asian part. Yeah, you're right, David. This is a rabbit hole. But so yeah, again, it's like I don't have to show you demonstrable proof of something for it to be possible. Like possibility kind of is prior to that. It's like
you do need proof for it. It would just be logical proof.
Right, logical proof really is all you'd need. And so the cloning thing is a good example. I would say, if there's a soul and that's the belief and the soul can be put back into the body or whatever, then there you go. That's a logical way that this could happen. As long as there's basically one explanation, then it's possible. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. There is a really interesting, I want to look this up because there's a really interesting thing I think you might like about, it's sort of I discovered it when I was in a Buddhism class and we were learning about one of the controversial teachings of the Buddha. And one of the controversial teachings was, I think it was either a female monk herself or like a woman herself or someone on behalf of another woman was like, oh, this, my friend Cindy, she really, really, really wants to be a monk and like follow you, Buddha, and like, be a Buddhist and follow the path. And Buddha goes, no women. And the guy goes, what? There's got to be women. Like, that's not fair. That's not.
It's because the monks would be tempted by the women. That was the conclusion of that.
Yeah, but then Buddha says something super specific. So what happens? So the final resolution of the story is they go back and forth a little bit, and then Buddha goes, "All right, fine, but women can be involved. Women can be monks. But just so you know, this is going to push off the true teaching by 500 more years. This is going to push off like." The next Buddha by 500 years if I allow this, but I'm going to allow it because you made some good points. Anyway, just about 500 years later, ding, 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 Jesus Christ.
That's fucking stupid. I mean, it doesn't necessarily make sense because he said we'll push the next Buddha off by 500 years, and he was the current Buddha, not the next one, but...
Wait, what's that?
Oh no, wait, never mind. You're meaning 500 years after the current Buddha, the next Buddha,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the
yeah.
next Buddha,
500
and then
years
500
after
years.
Siddhartha, then
Okay.
the true teaching or whatever he said will come about. It's again, it's a funny
That is
little.
funny.
It's not like a real argument. It's just a funny little thing. Um,
That is funny though. I will say that's why his first friend was Mary Magdalene.
yeah, yeah. There you
I
go.
have to get
Yeah.
this women shit out of the way really, really
Let me
quick.
just get that out of the way. Yeah, 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 yeah. Although still the church, I mean, the Protestant church does. I'm an Episcopal, so they Episcopalian, which is basically like it's like an Anglican, but they got into some weird political fight that I don't even understand. Like literally, I don't understand it, and so now for some reason there's a difference between the two. But anyway, so it's like American Anglican basically, and they do allow female preachers, and pretty much every Protestant denomination allows female preachers. Although I'm not sure about the Anglicans, but Catholics, Orthodox, they still don't, and they cite
There's actually a large amount of scholars that do say that Mary Magdalene was actually an
like
apostle of Jesus.
an apostle herself. Wow,
Yeah.
I believe it. The argument the Catholics would say is that there were no female disciples of Christ, and so because of that, they're supposed to represent the church or something like that. So then blah 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 blah. But anyway, I'm a Protestant, so it doesn't really matter. But it's interesting.
Oh, you're a Protestant. I
Yeah.
should hate you by my race.
Yes, you should. You absolutely should. I mean, that's just silliness. Of course, like, so I understand the religious trauma that people have. I'm not saying you have this, but a lot of people, they simply can't be religious because of the experience they had as children with like hatefulness or the fear of hell or just lots of stuff.
I
that
don't
goes
think
on.
generally those people are atheists, though. I don't think a lot of the time those people become atheists. I think that you become an atheist generally because you never really had any feelings towards the church or towards religion. That's where I came from.
Yeah,
and
that kind of makes
I
sense
don't,
too. That makes sense.
I don't really have any traumatic connection to the fucking church. Really,
Yeah, yeah.
I actually like my pastor. I'm gonna be very real with you.
No, I'm sure,
He's
yeah.
actually he's an amazing guy. He had a really bad stutter when I was younger,
Oh,
and
yeah.
through speaking for the church, it's gone.
Oh, that's great. Ah, good for him.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He's just through public speaking. So
Oh, that's the value.
he'll call that a miracle. He'll call that a miracle. I'll call it exposure therapy. Like,
I'll call it a miracle too. How about that? Balance it out. That's
Fair
funny. Because why would he want to speak? The miracle is that he came to Christ and then decided to speak, probably against his will because of his stutter, and you can then the exposure therapy. It's kind of like the genetic fallacy. It's like, okay, you can describe how God brought about some miracle, i.e., exposure therapy, but you can't explain why or exactly or you can't say
I
that
think
the
explaining how is explaining why, though.
No. You can explaining how could be explaining why, but it also could just be explaining the method. And so you haven't
Well,
proven
it depends
anything
on what
about
you
the
mean
why.
by why. It depends on what you mean by why. Because if you mean like a metaphysical purpose why, then yeah, sure. How doesn't explain that. It's why
Yeah.
it's why the science can't explain like what is our purpose, right? The science just doesn't answer those questions.
Right.
But
Exactly.
if we're explaining like why isn't like why did that happen, I can explain it by telling you how it happened.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that is my point fundamentally. It's like to
Depends
take
on
the
the why.
materialist approach just removes the why aspect from experience, which is okay. I understand why you would want to do that. Except I don't because there is no why. Anyway, no, I'm kidding.
It just depends on the why you mean. Like if you want to know why something happened, I
Yeah.
can tell you how. If you want to know why it happened, as in like why did they do this? I'm like, well, I can give you their psychology and like what they thought, but like
Sure.
I can't tell you like why the universe ordained it so to where you were the victim of this crime. Like I can't
Right.
tell you that.
Right. And I think religiously you can't answer most of those questions anyway.
Personally, I don't think it's a sensical question. I don't think that use of why makes sense because all of it would be the same answer
Oh,
as
you
to
don't
how
think
and
it's
why.
sensical?
I think what people want doesn't exist. I think it's less nonsensical, and what people want out of that doesn't exist.
Interesting. But people
Like
need
for instance,
purpose.
the why.
People need a why. They need some sort of meta why. Otherwise, there's just depression, right?
Well, no, like, and this is one of the big things I disagreed with you on your Alex O'Connor video is the
Yeah.
whole like, oh, this is how nihilism comes about from determinism. I'm not a nihilist. I'm an absolute determinist.
No, I know. Well, and then I realized that after I posted the video, I was like, oh yeah, I did just talk to you about. But you have such a radical and strange view of why you're not a nihilist.
I'm a radical determinist, dude, and
I
I
know,
love my
that's what's
life.
crazy about it.
I love my life.
I
I
know,
love
and
living.
that's why I guess I was just saying like casual determinism or something leads to nihilism or something, but like
I mean, if you don't think about it, sure. And a Christian goes, "Oh, well, you should be going around fucking killing people," and they're like, "Oh my God, you're right."
you're right.
Like, there's a great quote from a couple people. I don't know who originated it, but it's like, "Well, if you don't believe in God, you're going around raping and killing people as much as you want." And it's like, "That's exactly what I do. I do it as much as I want, which is zero."
Oh, yeah. But I mean, if it happened to be one or two, then that would be fine too. Is the point? But yeah.
Well, I mean, if God is the only thing stopping you from doing one or two, I think you've got bigger problems.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Um, and yeah, I understand that. I mean, I think we do have to. At the end of the day, we sort of have to evaluate where we get our moral structures totally from. And I know you're just going to say it's genetics, and actually, you're going to say it's a sociological effect of genetics. But another sociological effect is religion itself, which then brings about the moral
Yep.
structure. And
Well,
so,
I think that it's a more rigid social structure. It's a way of setting up rules that don't require any vagueness. It's literally like, here's the ultimate person. Here's the rule. You
Yep.
can't argue with me.
Yeah.
Whereas if there was just no ultimate authority, you'd have to argue with me.
Yeah, you'd have to argue with a lot of stuff.
It's way more useful. It's way more useful for a lot of Old Testament stuff and New Testament stuff. But I think that eventually we will evolve beyond the need for it.
Evolve beyond the need. But it's like, I saw a comment, a stupid YouTube comment the other day, so it doesn't really mean anything. But it was like, when like Christianity does 90% of the moral work and atheism takes credit for the last 10%. Does that have any bearing on you? Does that resonate with you in any way?
I mean, so the one thing I will say is
Yeah.
what amount of moral things happened and how are you attributing it to religion? You know what I mean? Like how much shit happened before religion was a thing?
Well, geez, it was probably just biology, I would imagine, unless you presume that there's some sort
Also,
of like
if you're saying religion,
pre-religious.
yeah, I think there's pre-religious actions that have some moral value if you were to look at them, and I think that some of them definitely are good. And I think there's a lot more past than there is of the Christian, or not Christian, of the religious faiths that exist. But um, like even if you want to include like sun worship, for instance.
Yeah.
But I think that the funniest thing about that is that if that person's a Christian, you're definitely wrong because the greatest good existed before any religion, which is God.
But yeah, the greatest good existed before. Yeah, no, I agree. Well, yeah, the way I would frame it if I was that stupid YouTube commenter, which again, I don't condone that like analogy or whatever it was, but with that God does 100% of the moral work. GG. It's like there you go. So, if you find 80% of it in Buddhism, or I think you're going to get a higher percentage of that from Christianity. But yeah, I mean, it's just
I personally
it's a
think
spectrum.
I personally think that if you are a Christian and you have person A who comes to the knowledge of the morality of God without believing in God, and you have the person who comes to the same knowledge, but because they believed in God, I think the person who didn't is actually superior.
The person who did is actually superior. Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
the person who came to the conclusion without God is superior.
Yeah, if you're framing it as the person who does it, the person who believes in God simply obeys like moral codes for the only reason, like the other guy, like even if it was an evil God, he would obey them. Then yes, I would agree that the person that actually engages and thinks and logics, reasons themselves to morality is definitely going to be superior. They're going to be able to talk about
Yeah.
morality more in depth. They're going to have an actual a better grounding than just, well, I was told to do it, so I do it. But the person who
The
also
best
reasons and wrestles with morality and also believes in God is at least on equal footing with the other one.
Yeah, and the best argument for that is literally First Peter 3:15.
Okay.
Because if you do not have faith, but you have reason for the hope within you, which doesn't necessarily talk about Jesus, it just says the hope you have within you.
Yeah, true.
And it doesn't specifically say like now it does say we will be saved. I think is the message they're talking about for the hope. I
Yeah,
don't think
and
they
ultimately
care.
the hope, it must be referential to Jesus because we're talking about Peter here. So, I mean,
That is true, and I do think it is referential to Jesus, but
yeah.
I don't think he cares about the figure of Jesus. I think all they care about is the hope itself for
Okay.
humanity.
I agree. I think we examine this hope all over the place, and all from all different cultures and in all different people.
Right, because if it wasn't just not connected to Jesus, then people who were atheists would just go to hell no matter what. So like I
Right.
think they only care about the hope of humanity, hope
Yeah.
for humanity.
Yeah. For some reason, this is coming up to me that uh, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, and I think that does apply to the moral laws as well. Where it's like yes, God wants you to be a good person or do this or that or whatever, but ultimately it benefits you. It benefits you the most to be a moral person, to be a good person.
Well, no, it doesn't even benefit you. It benefits everyone.
Well, it happens to also benefit everybody, which is awesome. But the point I'm taking away is that like, it's tempting. It's tempting to believe the doctrine of might equals right, and just like Andrew Tate style, I'm just gonna make all the money I can, fuck over whoever I want, do everything I want to do, and as long as I'm doing it my way, then it's it's valid, it's good, it makes me happy. I don't think there's anything about Andrew Tate which is happy. That's what I would say.
His hairline definitely is fucking happy.
Yeah, the hairline isn't having it. The year in prison or whatever the hell was going on, he's pacing around looking like a crazy person with a fucking beard. I really loathe
fucking
that
Moses.
guy.
Like,
Yeah. I really do loathe Andrew Tate. But anyway, regardless of that, I think it's like, the living the good life does, yes, it does benefit everybody else, but you don't even have to just do it for them. And almost in like an Ayn Rand type of way. Like, it's like helping yourself does help others, especially if you do it right.
yeah, helping yourself helps others. I don't like the saying like you have to want it for yourself before you want it for others. I feel like that's not.
Yeah, sorry,
holistic.
I missed. You kind of cut out. What's the first part? You have to do.
People who say like you have to do it for yourself and not for others. And I feel like you have to do it for everyone.
Yeah,
because it affects everyone. You don't live in a bubble.
Right. Yeah, your actions really do. The butterfly effect is one way of thinking about it, but like you really do affect people more than you know. Everybody does.
Yeah, and I mean the Christian would believe that you even affect God. Like you can disappoint.
Yeah, it is. It's like I hesitate to anthropomorphize like that, but I think it is fair to do that actually, in a lot of cases. And it's like the way I say it is that like sin is offensive to God. It's like repugnant to him, and he doesn't want to be offended by us. He doesn't want to be repelled from us. But it's just the opposite of his nature. So it has to be repugnant to him.
Yeah. Is there any other like arguments
Topic?
that you wanted to go over, by the way?
Let's think
Because we've gone over a couple in the first time, like the ontological argument, for instance.
Yeah, ontological argument was fun. I don't think we're going to get anywhere with the ontological argument right now. I was trying to edge us in a little bit to the transcendental argument, but it seems like you actually believe in objective truth, which most people who argue against the transcendental argument do not believe in.
I think there are problems with the transcendental argument, but I don't think that I disagree with the conclusion.
Yeah, so maybe let's go over. I'm not that well versed on it. I was just learning about it this weekend myself, so maybe we can even sort of like hash it out.
Sure, get up the argument and we can.
Yeah, let's pull it up. Let's have. I'm gonna Google it first, but then I might just ask Rock to put it in a concise format for me because it's kind of good at that. Okay,
I mean, I can break down the fucking what is it? I can't forget what the arguments are called when they're in that format. I did it for years, dude.
Yeah, I know. There's like an actual fancy word for it.
What is it called? Syllogism. There we go.
A syllogism, exactly. Let's see. I'm going to. Okay, I'm sharing on the stream. I'm going to share my screen with you.
You're already sharing.
I'm already sharing my screen with you in the Discord.
See it. Oh no, you're not sharing your screen, but I can see your screen.
Oh, weird. What the hell? About metaphysical.
You might as well stop streaming. I can see your screen and your webcam.
Is that true?
Yeah, right now, look at
that's
your
because
YouTube
because I'm
shit.
using this virtual camera. I see what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, that's the only way I can do Discord and the OBS at the same time. Okay.
Oh, look, the logical absolutes.
The logical absolutes.
A lot of excluded middle,
so
my beloved.
how do they to debate oversimplified argument which expanded in outline form below goes as follows. Logical absolutes exist. Logical absolutes are conceptual by nature. They're not dependent on space, time, physical properties, or human nature. They are not the product of the physical universe, space, time, matter, because if the physical universe were to disappear, logical absolutes would still be true. Logical absolutes are not the product of human minds because human minds are different, not absolute. So this might be where we have some tension. I'm not sure. But since logical absolutes are always true everywhere and not dependent upon human minds, it must be an absolute transcendent mind that is authoring them. This mind.
See, that's the other thing, is that like the conclusion I disagree with about so it specifically is not a sound argument. It is valid in its format. It is not sound in the facts it uses or the conclusions that it determines. Because a mind is not mentioned in any of the premises, therefore it cannot be in the conclusion. That's how kind of argument like that works.
Well, logic. How does logic exist outside of anything but a mind?
Well, it doesn't have to exist in a mind. It literally says that in the actual like argument.
They're conceptual by. So how can anything conceptual? They're logical absolutes are conceptual by nature.
So I disagree. So that is the other thing. I disagree with them being conceptual because that means they're dependent upon a mind. It's a circular argument.
Okay.
Because he's very clearly stating that it exists outside of minds, but then he's saying that it's dependent on minds. It's a circular argument and it self-defeats itself.
Okay, let's walk through it because I see where you're going. I do see what you're saying, that this does seem like that it would be circular if by conceptual it means...
Logical absolutes are dependent on minds, therefore logical absolutes are dependent on minds.
Logical absolutes are conceptual by nature, are not dependent on space-time. They're not the product of the physical universe. But you agree that they are not the product of human minds.
That might be the case. I'm not sure. They might be the product of one human mind, which is the I think therefore I am argument, which is my mind.
Okay. I'm gonna hold that they are,
or they might exist in the
minds.
They either exist in the I and I think therefore I am, or they exist in the experiential like thing that I experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they don't
one,
just exist in the experiential. If you believe in any objective truth at all, then like the law of identity, some of these things, if not all of them, have to exist, like whether humans are here or not, or any sort of conscious.
Well, but that's the thing, is that like if you take solipsism, right? The only things that exist are two things.
Yeah.
One, the experiencer, and two, the experience.
Yeah.
So the thing that's being placed upon the experiencer, it either exists in one of those. In one of those options, it exists in your mind, and everything to do, like there could be contradictions in this like meta-realistic like experience that we can't even think of. However, in the experience that you filter through your mind, you could come up with the logical absolutes. Now, is that more likely or less likely than the experience being true and that these are true? I'm not sure, because I don't know what the experience is.
Well, so then you really don't believe in objective reality if you think there's any reality in which the law of identity cannot be true, right?
Well, I can't imagine one in which is not. That is correct. It's a conceptual barrier. I can't imagine a square circle.
Right.
Right. So, but I also don't know what I don't know objective reality. I have no idea what it is. I can't, as a subjective being, completely grasp it. So, like, is there some reality?
But no one's asking you to completely grasp it, just to approach it.
Yeah, I approach it. But in this, like, let's say, like, God, in some way, is like, hey, I can actually do true contradictions. I'm God. And then he shows you one because he's God. That would be an example of I created, in my mind, the logical absolutes to deal with the fact that these things exist and I can't comprehend them. So I'm like, they don't exist.
Okay, I might have lost you on that one.
I'm basically saying I can't prove that they can't exist.
You can't prove that they can't exist.
Yeah, in this like other external experience that I might be filtering out. So like I can't prove that they are dependent upon a mind.
Okay. Okay.
I think the argument can't prove is one of its premises.
So you believe in an objective reality. It's just completely ineffable. I mean, it's totally
It's the
unable
problem
to
with hard
be.
solipsism.
Yeah, certainly.
Like, it's the problem that every mind has to go through. Is like, is this thing that I'm experiencing a part of my experience, or is it objectively true? And since we
Yeah.
can't ever take our experience out of our experience and experience true objective fact, we can never really answer that question. Now, as I said before, I'm not Neo, right? I can
Yeah.
only exist within the universe I perceive, unless I'm given the red pill by God.
Right.
So if we're talking about
Right.
in what I perceive, I think that the logical absolutes are true.
Okay.
But I did want to put that argument out there that, like, I can't 100% say that for
You
true.
can't 100% know. So okay, you're not even really fully arguing that they're unknowable. You're just saying you can't know for sure that they are all
Yeah.
100%.
Once we
valid.
get to this logical, like,
Yeah.
0 point state, we have to kind of touch on that. But I'm okay with assuming them. So, like, as like logical absolutes.
Yeah. And again, we wouldn't even be able to talk if you couldn't assume logical absolutes. Really,
Yeah. But,
like, there'd be
once
no
you say they are
conversation.
conceptual, like once you say they are conceptual, I'm like, can you even fucking probe them that closely? I don't know if you can.
Well, this is what this is speaking to. So, logical absolutes are true statements such as, I think we know what they are. That which exists has attributes and a nature. Fair enough. I mean, I think that's fair.
Sure.
Something cannot be itself and not itself at the same time. I mean, yeah, we can.
Yeah, true dichotomy. Yeah.
Truth is not self-contradictory. We sort of talked about that.
Truth is not self-contradictory.
It could not be true that you are reading this and not reading this at the same time in the same sense. It is either true or false.
That's true. I was thinking about something for a second. But yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. So then
It's
they
actually an
jump
old
to,
argument they used to
therefore
use against
logical
God.
absolutes are absolutely true. They're not subjectively true. That is, they're not sometimes true and sometimes false, depending on preference or situation.
Sure,
Otherwise,
we
they
can
would
grant
not
that
be
in
absolute.
we can grant that in the universe we perceive together. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So logical absolutes form the basis of rational discourse. I think we both agree with that.
Sure.
Pretty. But let's walk through it slowly.
Logical absolutes are
If the logical absolutes are not absolute, then truth cannot be known. I mean, do you agree with that? Because that's an important point. I would argue that this is true.
So, if the logical absolutes are not absolute, truth can't be known.
Then truth,
I don't think truth can be known. So it depends
well,
on what
truth
they
really
mean by.
wouldn't exist if they're not absolute. Then truth
So-
would not exist, really.
I'm not saying I disagree with the first part of the sentence. I
Okay.
disagree with the second part, which is a
Okay.
conclusion of the first part. So
If the logical absolutes are not absolute, then no rational discourse can occur. I think I would agree with that too, but let's break it down. For example, I could say that a square is a circle, violating the law of identity, or that I am and am not alive in the same sense at the same time, violating the law of non-contradiction. But no one would expect to have a rational conversation with someone who spoke in contradictory statements.
yeah, that's true. But like going back to the other one about the if the logical absolutes are not absolute, then the truth cannot be known. I think that's a way in which truth can't be known, but I'm also not convinced truth can be known even if they are true.
Wait, so, but then you do.
We're going
think
back
that
to the
truth-
solipsism thing. We're
So then
going
you
back to the
do
solipsism.
believe that truth cannot be known.
There is, so it depends on what they mean by truth cannot be known, because there are truths. Do they mean that all truth can't be known? Because I think I'd agree with that. I don't think all truth can be known. Like, there are things that you would not be able to know.
The way this is formulated is that any truth cannot be known.
Okay, then that's fine. That's fine. I think that some truths can be known. Like, I think they're fine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so there is truth. It exists. It's something. Okay, if logical absolutes are not always true, then it might be true that something can contradict itself, which would make truth unknowable and rational discourse impossible. Oh wait, we already agreed that rational discourse is impossible.
Yeah, because something could both be true and not
Yeah.
true at the same time,
Yeah.
which means you couldn't know anything.
Okay, so then this is where it's probably going to get a little interesting for us. So logical absolutes are transcendent. Well, they're not dependent on space. I think we can see that. They're logical things. I mean,
Well, actually, I don't know about them not being dependent on time.
okay, let's talk about that. Logical absolutes are not dependent on time. They do not stop being true dependent on time. If we travel 1 billion years in the future or past, logical absolutes are still true.
Right, but if there's no time, are the logical absolutes true?
Interesting.
If there's no time or space, are they
No
true?
time or space.
For
So
instance,
in
God
your
is
view,
eternal.
is there still matter? Is there still
No,
energy?
there's
Obviously,
nothing.
time.
Not a thing.
Then actually, I would think they are still true. Except the only one that's even relevant is the law of identity.
Exactly. I think that the only one that would be true is the law of identity.
But that would still be true.
Sure. I just don't think all of them are true.
Oh, okay. I think
I think
this
that some
one,
of them are dependent.
the
No, actually, no,
which
no, no,
ones are
no, no, no,
dependent
because
actually?
never mind, never mind. I'm incorrect. I'm rusty on my laws of identity and stuff because the law of identity would then be true, and it can't be both not true and true. Therefore, the law of non-contradiction exists. Yeah, they're all connected. I forgot about that.
They
It
are
doesn't
all
matter. Literally,
connected.
one can't exist without the other.
One, yeah, they can't exactly. Yeah.
Never mind. Anyway, continue.
Okay, so they're dependent on space and time, or I mean, they're not dependent on space and time. So logical observations are not dependent on people. I think this is actually where we're gonna. So people's minds are different.
I gave the example of the whole I think or I am thing, but I'm okay to work past that if we
Okay.
want to.
Okay. But this
Sure,
is a
they're
good
not
point. If
dependent
logical
on
absolutes
minds.
were simply the product of human minds, but you're never going to say that. You're going to say it's the experience the human mind is
I mean,
having.
a rock
of
is a
some-
rock. A rock is a rock, but not dependent upon the mind of observing the rock.
Right. Okay, so they're not found in atoms, motion, heat, under rocks, etc. That sort of follows. Logical absolutes cannot be
Sure.
photographed, frozen, weighed, or measured. Sure.
I think we can skip this one.
Yeah, probably. I mean, this literally just all follows from it being not dependent on
I
space.
agree, they're not
and time.
material. Sure.
Yeah. But if this is an interesting one. But if the universe did not exist, logical absolutes are still true. But that's what we just said as well. So, for example, yeah, exactly what you
It
said.
would still not exist, which would be a truth statement.
Which would be a truth statement, right? Okay, so they're conceptual by nature. Okay.
See, I don't agree with this because you're saying that they're not based on minds, but then you're saying they're based on minds, and it's like, nah.
Well, let's see how they break it down. So, logic is a process of the mind. I think you'd agree with that.
Logic is, I would say logic is a process of the mind. Sure, I think logic can be processed through the mind. I don't think logic is created by the mind. Sure. In fact, I think this is another thing that contradicts the other conclusion.
I think they agree with you so far, and I doubt they would contradict themselves in this type of
Logical absolutes provide the framework for logical
thought processing.
They weird this so weirdly. Like logic is a process of the mind, which means the mind creates logic. But we disagree with that.
No. This doesn't mean logic that the mind creates logic. We've already said that the mind does not.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's saying it contradicts itself within its own argument. Logic is a process of the mind. Like if I said that Minecraft is a process of a computer,
yeah,
the computer is creating Minecraft.
No, you'd say the computer provides the framework for Minecraft to take place.
Right. It's creating the world of Minecraft.
So what exactly is your problem with this? Logical
assume,
absolutes provide the framework for logical thought processes. You just fundamentally.
I just think that the first part of this, like if they started with that, I'd agree. But like the fucking first sentence is just weird. We can move past it if you want. I'm just saying, the first sentence is fucking weird.
No, it's okay to stick on it because if it's weird, it's good. Logic is a process of the mind. So okay, I see what your contention is. You're saying, well, maybe it's not.
Sure, yeah. I think that if you, like, for instance, if you grab an apple from a tree, you wouldn't say that the apple is the process of the hand. The apple is not a process of the hand.
Grabbing the apple would be a process of the hand.
Grabbing the apple would, but logic isn't the hand grabbing something. It's the apple. We're trying to access logic.
I think logic is sort of like a active thing. I mean, it's sort of more like the grabbing than an object.
It's a tool, right? Logic is a tool to get to truth, right? It's like a vehicle.
Yeah.
And it would be like saying
you might even say a process.
Yeah, it's like it'd be like saying a vehicle. Well, no, because I'm saying logic is the vehicle. The process would be getting in my car and going to work.
Okay.
And then I would be the mind. Right.
Okay.
So it would be like saying a car is the process of a person. Which doesn't make sense.
Okay.
The second sentence makes sense, right? Where it's saying the car provides the means for which I go to work.
For logic. Okay, so let's move on, and if this comes back up, like this is necessary later, then we'll get back into it. But for now, let's move forward and see where this goes. So,
Okay.
They're going to say, because obviously this is probably going to instantly become important, but therefore it seems proper to say that logical absolutes are conceptual by nature, since logical absolutes are truth statements about logical things. And so I know you already disagree with this. So let's see. If you disagree that logical absolutes are conceptual by nature, then please explain what they are, if not conceptual realities.
That's just a fallacy.
Oh,
Like
well, hold
that's
on.
that's
If you
literally
cannot determine what they are, which you can't, right? Then how can you
sure.
logically assert that they are not conceptual realities, since logic is a process of the mind, and logical absolutes are truth statements, which are also products of the mind? Expanded, logical absolutes are either conceptual by nature or they are not.
Sure, but doesn't this contradict the whole like previous argument that they don't depend upon minds?
Well, the
Like if you
logical
cannot
absolutes,
I dis
don't depend upon minds, but I think they
but
would
I,
say like the lower order like logic as
lower
we do
order
it
logic.
in our head is simply the process by which the logical absolutes are basically experienced by us.
I mean, sure, if you want to say that, but I still disagree with the fact that this is a sound argument.
Okay.
Because if you disagree with the logical absolutes, then please explain why they are not. And if they are not, then they must be this. It's like,
Well, no, logical absolutes either are conceptual or they are not. That's pretty. I mean,
right,
that's
and I have
gotta
no
be
reason
clear.
to believe that they are. That's my argument to that. I have no reason to believe they are conceptual, other than the fact that something conceptual you're saying would fit the process. But
Right.
just because
Okay.
it is
So,
doesn't
okay,
mean
we can move by that. I understand what you're saying. You just sort of reject the idea that they are conceptual.
right. You're saying that I can't prove that they are, but can you prove that they're not? Like,
I would say it makes more intuitive sense for them to be conceptual, but I'll give you that I can't prove that. So, yeah, that's
it's
fair.
more intuitive for the Earth was flat. You know what I mean?
You keep saying that one, but it is definitely different to a scientific fact versus a logic, like a meta logic statement. Those are obviously two
Right.
very
Well,
different things.
I'm talking pre-proof, not nowadays. Right. Like pre-proof for the world being circular or
Yeah,
spherical.
but that's something that
It
even
was
could.
intuitive that it was flat.
Yeah. But things that are intuitive are much more easily disproved by science than things that are intuitive, which are not at all in nature scientific. Like, for instance, logic.
Right, but other logical arguments based upon reality would also be the same, and I think that just because this one isn't based upon like observable reality doesn't mean that this is any different. Especially if we just because we can't prove that it's wrong doesn't mean that it is true or we should assume it's true.
Okay. All right, I'll go with you on that for now. Let's see if that is necessary. If that might be the only place where this breaks apart, and that's fine. If they are not conceptual by nature, then what is their nature? If it is denied that logical absolutes are either conceptual or not conceptual, then this is impossible because we get that.
One of the ones is excluded middles, so
Yeah,
you're literally
excluded
saying the logical
middles.
absolutes
Yep.
are fucking wrong. Like,
Yep. And if they are not conceptual by nature, then what are they? If it is known that they are, then how can it be said that they are not, since it seems fair to say that knowing what something is not also entails knowing something about what it is. For example, I know what water is. If someone says that a piece of wood is water by nature, I would say that it is not. If someone says that a frying pan is water by nature, I would say it is not. If someone were to say to me that a fluorcist, a word I just made up that represents an unknown thing, is by nature hard, how then can I rationally deny such a claim by saying I don't know what a fluorcist is, but I know it isn't hard? The response would be, since you don't know what it is, how do you know what it is not? Is this
right, but I
the
would deny the existence of a fluorcist because I would have to take the knowledgeable stance that it
Yeah.
doesn't exist until proven that it is.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Oh, Comic Brandon, welcome back, brother. David. No, wait, David's got some questions here. I missed him. Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Rising from the dead. Oh, that we talked about that. They've never. We call him miracle.
Oh, they're gone.
We talked about that. Never mind. This is a rabbit hole. Yeah. Why do you believe it? I have to run. Fun to listen. You guys have a great evening. Okay. Peace, David. Peace. I'm back. We find God yet? No, we're working on it, Brandon. We'll get there.
We find God, yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
I think the.
It was hiding behind the Higgs boson this whole time.
Yeah, we did. We looked under a rock, and hold on. Give me 1 second to attend to something. figure this out in a little bit. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. Okay. Okay, so we're good. I don't even look under my rock. Okay, fair enough. All right, thoughts reflect the mind. So a person's, I don't know how this, I'm not sure how this enters into the transcendental argument, but fair enough. Thoughts reflect the mind. A person's thoughts are the product of that person's mind. A mind that is irrational will produce irrational thoughts. I'm sure you agree with that. A mind that is rational will produce rational thoughts. It seems fair to say an absolutely perfect mind would produce perfect thoughts. Since the logical absolutes are transcendent, absolute, perfectly consistent, and are independent of the universe, then it seems proper to say that they reflect a transcendent, absolute, perfect, and independent mind. We call this transcendent, absolute, perfect, and independent mind God, since a physical brain is not transcendent by nature because it is limited to physical space, and God is, by definition, transcendent in nature. Oh, I cannot hear you. That's true. Let's see. Let me just leave the Discord and come back. How's that?
Hello?
Okay, yeah, now I can hear you. All right.
Okay.
So
I have
this
a
is all
problem
going
with
to
the
fall
argument.
apart
Like,
because
excuse
you
me?
don't even believe that they're conceptual by nature.
Wait, stream again?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Or not
Yeah.
stream again, but turn on your webcam.
Right. Okay. There we go. That should be
All right.
good. Okay.
All right, so...
So because you
Outside
don't
house
believe that
mind.
they're conceptual by nature, this is all going to fall. This
Oh,
first
so
premise is going to fall
I had
apart.
I had another disagreement is I don't think irrational thoughts exist.
Oh, well, you've. I mean, come on.
Morally irrational thoughts might exist if you believe in like morality in the terms of like a Christian would like.
No. I just mean
but
like, what, you think irrational thoughts?
I don't think you can
exist?
think. I don't think you can think about things that are irrational because they don't exist.
I can.
Like you can't think about a square circle. You can't think about.
I see what you're saying.
It doesn't exist.
I see what you're saying.
You can't think about. You can think about doing morally wrong things, like morally irrational things, right? If
Can
you
you-
were like if you were like a person who believed in like morality in a more traditional sense.
Yeah.
I don't think you can even do that because I think that that's just thinking about something.
Well, I also agree that you can't really do that, but the point of the argument is that.
Oh right,
we
you don't
have-
believe in thought crime, right?
No, I don't really believe in thought crime, I guess.
Yeah.
But the point of the argument is that we fundamentally do have rational minds. That's why this is so compelling.
I would agree. Fundamentally, we have rational minds, so I don't think
Yeah.
rational thoughts exist.
But do you agree that a mind that is rational will produce rational thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so that's all.
I think only rational thoughts exist. I don't think they even need point two.
Okay, that's fair. I think intuitively a lot of people would like this point
I agree,
because
I agree that it's intuitive, but I don't
Yeah.
think they exist. So
Okay, that's fair.
I'm actually helping the argument.
Yeah, really, truly. It seems fair to say that an absolutely perfect mind would produce perfect thoughts. I think that's totally fair.
I
Pretty
mean,
self-evident.
I don't think that we know what perfect means. Go on. I think you'd have to define.
Well, but if
for the second
perfect
to make
means
sense of
anything,
on this.
if perfect means anything, if a perfect mind exists, it has perfect thoughts. No.
Well, maybe a perfect mind doesn't exist, and maybe
Yeah, maybe it
thoughts don't
doesn't. Maybe it
exist.
doesn't. But it just seems that if it would, if it
Maybe,
did.
maybe those are even contradictory. You know what I mean? Like we haven't probed the thing
I
we're talking
understand.
about.
I understand. And then
We're just
then
kind of
it's
being
gonna
like,
say,
okay, sneaking this in here, like you know.
Well, I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like they're really sneaking anything in. It seems pretty self-evident that a perfect mind would produce perfect thoughts. But
Right. No, I'm not saying that the perfectness of it is the thing that's contradictory. I'm saying the whole. Let's say that a perfect mind, for some reason, doesn't produce thoughts. It produces this more metaphysical structure of something.
Got you.
Right.
Like reality. or
In
something.
that case, this would be wrong. Since we can't probe that, this
see.
can't be investigated.
I see.
Therefore, it can't necessarily be it can't be concluded upon.
Okay.
Like if I say a blurb necessarily means a deef,
Yeah.
could you prove me wrong?
No, certainly not.
Exactly. I don't know what these words even mean. Like together.
Yeah. Okay.
They can't be probed to be wrong, so assuming they're right is illogical.
It seems a little more. It seems a little more clear what this means than a blurb and a clurb. But fair enough. I understand. I understand you have an objection to presuming basically anything about a perfect mind.
Perfect and mind are both cohesive ideas.
Yes.
I'd argue perfect mightn't be. However, we can just say we have our own ideas of what perfect means.
Sure.
But perfect mind and perfect thought, I have no fucking clue what those are.
Yeah, I don't think it's really asking you to know what a perfect mind would look like or imagine the perfect mind, but it's just asking
Well,
you to
it's
imagine.
going to. It's going to say a perfect mind could imagine the logical absolutes. I don't know if that's true.
Well, it's not going to say a perfect mind would imagine because they are perfect. They're going to say logical absolutes because logical absolutes have these properties of transcendence, absoluteness, perfect consistency, and independence of the universe. Then this is what, see, they're not really sneaking anything. It seems proper to say that they reflect a transcendence, absolute, perfect, and independent
Mind, yeah.
mind. So that's what they're going to say. And now if you just fundamentally reject.
I disagree that they're conceptual and are based upon a mind because it hasn't been proven. So yeah.
Yeah.
I also disagree that a perfect mind could do that because it hasn't been proven that perfect minds have any properties. So.
Right. It's a lot of
like,
proof.
what if a perfect mind can't be a material
for your worldview?
Dude, these are like primordial ideas.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so there's obviously not going to be proof. Like, you cannot possibly have primordial proof.
If there's no proof, I don't care.
That's fair, but that's just where you're at. That's the cost of your worldview. That's all I'm saying.
Is it a cost? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't believe things that where you don't have scientific or whatever, just proof of them.
Well, I mean, I can, like, for instance, the logical absolutes. I have to believe.
Yeah, so it seems weird.
Those are the things I have to believe.
Yeah.
I don't have to believe anything further.
No, you don't have to do anything. I'm just showing you what it costs not to. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
I don't think it costs anything.
Okay, that's fair. We call this transcendent, absolute, perfect, independent mind, God. All right, yeah, so there you go. Objections. This could be interesting. Logical absolutes are the result of natural existence. This is pretty much what you would presume, right? Or this is where your mind goes to, that they're a result of some sort of natural existence.
Read it again.
Logical absolutes are the result of natural existence.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we can probe that. They very clearly don't depend on the things that they have effects on, so we can't probe that.
Okay, fair enough. And you also agree, you would stand against this objection because you also don't believe they're a product of our chemical processes or product of our mind. You do.
Yeah, we already agreed with that
objective.
in the previous thing.
Yeah. If they're part of the natural existence of the universe, then they would cease to exist if the universe ceased.
Yeah, which I don't think is. I mean, personally, if we're being totally honest right now, I don't know what that means to not exist. So, I mean, if nothing exists, maybe the laws of identity and non-contradiction don't exist, which means they can both exist and not exist. Like,
that would also be true. That would be we already went over that though.
Right, but I'm saying that, like, I don't know what the nature of the universe when it doesn't exist is. So, like, maybe if that is the case that they do not exist, then they have to exist because the law of non-contradiction then doesn't exist. But then that means it does exist.
Yep. Okay, gotcha.
Like, they would, like, it would be it would have, if they don't exist, then they exist. Because they can both exist and not exist because the law of non-contradiction doesn't exist anymore. It's a really weird way to think about it, but like,
I just don't think that's valid. I mean, but fair enough.
Well, I'll put it like this.
Yeah.
Let's say the law of non-contradiction ceases to exist. It is now a truth statement that it doesn't exist.
Right.
But the law of non-contradiction is gone.
Yeah.
So that means there can be a contradiction, which means it does exist. So it exists.
That's what I'm saying. And you're saying it might not if the universe ceased to exist.
Right, but if it might not, then it must. Because it's a contradiction, and if the law of non-contradiction doesn't exist, then it must exist because it's now able to be contradictory. In fact, that might be a good argument for the necessity of these laws, because even if they didn't exist, those would be truth statements, in which case their exceptions would necessarily need to be the case.
Yeah.
They might just be axioms of existence.
Well, that's this exact objection. Logical absolutes are axioms. An axiom is a truth that is self-evident. To say that logical absolutes are axioms is to beg the
I
question
don't even
by
think
saying they're
self-evident. I
simply
think
self-evident.
I don't even think self-evident. I think self-existent. I think the falseness of their
Well, that's
existence
what this
infers
is.
their existence.
But that's just begging the question by saying they exist because they exist and does not provide an explanation for their. I'm not saying that. This is what
Dude,
the article says, but
dude, they
simply
might be
saying they
eternal.
exist is not an answer. What's that?
They might be eternal.
Hey, look, man, you're getting closer and closer to God. We're gonna get you here one of these days. I'm telling you.
Hey, listen, I'm not aspiring any fucking personality to the law of non-contradiction. It doesn't like wine. Like,
Yeah, but that's what you build up to. You get there eventually.
but think about this. This is an interesting thing, and it's an
Yes.
argument towards you, right? If you want to use it.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Yeah.
So, if the law of non-contradiction ceases to exist when the universe ceases to exist, or doesn't exist,
Yep.
necessarily, that means that contradictions can exist. The only truth statements that now exist are about the three, or well, actually, are about everything because they do not exist.
Yeah.
So, if you have something that's as foundational as the axioms, you must start there, and then there's like a trickle effect. So,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
have the law of non-contradiction,
Yep.
the law of identity, the law of
Yep.
excluded middle. They're both not, they're not true anymore,
Yep.
which means that their consequences can exist, but their also non-consequences can exist too because the law of non-contradiction is gone, the law of identity is gone.
Right. So all the contradictions.
So they
can
exist.
Okay.
So they also exist, which means they exist, which means their contradiction of not existing can't exist.
Yep.
So
Yep.
them not existing enforces their existence.
Them not existing enforces their existence. Hey, look, man, I'll use that. That's good. I like that.
It's an
You're not
interesting
doing
thought
yourself any
experiment.
favors, but I do like it.
I mean, here, I would literally just say, hey, you're right. Did Jesus rise from the dead?
And I would say yeah, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course that's not the end of the story, but
Does the law of non-contradiction like crackers? Like,
right. I understand what you're saying. But it is good that we can agree on objective truth. This is much farther than this is much more that we agree on than I can agree on with most of the atheists so far that have come into the chat. They 99 all
they're
of them,
very annoying.
all of them will reject the possibility of objective truth.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense because
I
you
know.
need to say, oh, objective truth doesn't exist. And it's like, okay, is that objective? Like,
Exactly. It's self-refuting. Yep.
I think
Okay.
I think this even goes even further if you say that these things justify themselves even if they don't exist. So that means objective truth must exist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Okay, I have to go, but this was super
All right,
fun.
man.
Super fun. Great stream. I love getting into transcendental arguments because not only are you thinking about an argument for God, you're also just thinking about like we
How
just
the
came to,
universe works, yeah.
how the universe works, how we do logic, how we know about knowing. You know what I mean?
Now your mission is to ascribe what the laws of identity, non-contradiction, exclude middle have to say about gay people. And once you get there, I think you've proven God.
They say it's not allowed.
The law of excluded middle, no middleman.
I know. The law of excluded middle. The law of excluded poppers. Okay. Super fun. Great stream. Thank you for joining me, brother. Hope, Brandon, love you, brother. Perfect as a concept, doesn't exist. Bye. Yeah. Good info from Brandon. We are out. Super fun.
All right, dude.